Hello and welcome to episode 222, that's a lot of twos, of the FReality podcast. This show is in part dedicated to all the starving journalists out there. Here at FReality, we're starting the F Journalists Fund. We need your clicks because so do they. Grab a shovel, your favorite headset, and go on, little Sally. Just take your beloved HMDs and chuck them right in the hole. They were good times while they lasted, my fellow VR gangsters. Oh, and rest in peace, Coolio. Spring is here, despite a few town criers, and there is plenty to play. This crew is here to make your day. Half rumor mill speculation, half Warren Buffett business. Today's show will lay out a litmus test for our voyage into the second Delta Quadrant of 2023.
Oh.
The unstoppable paper clip machine hasn't gotten to us yet. Not just yet. So here is today's show snack pack. Happy Deck of Fools, aka when ex-staff strike back. Question: which is worse for your teens, 2% milk or 4% VR? Mad Max shares his guide on how best to get hitched in Vegas, to a server rack, that is. And over at the Fruit Factory, Apple may be readying to stun the world with a major tech drop in June. After that, Jose will ravish you with releases and sparkle your spazzle. Listeners, viewers, and chat, we'd hug you if we could. The best we can do today is bring you into the show. So tell us, what have you done with your life recently? Any regrets? Or is it all peanut butter and chocolate? Doing anything in real life for Easter? Or just VRing your life away? And with that, it's time to roll in the crew. This man terrifies us with his science, woos us with his bushy beard. He's Beaker and Dr. Bunsen Honeydew all in one. It's a Belgian-Canadian extravaganza cocooned in, oh, what a man. This fine specimen, researchers like to call Le Rowdy.
Le Rowdy, yeah. That's the second time now we're making that joke, and people on stream have no idea what it is about. It's basically what happened is Zim sent me a package, and he wrote on the big top. Well, he wrote my address, but like in big letters on top, he wrote down Le Rowdy because I live in Quebec, you know, where they speak French.
I was a little worried it might end up on a street called that. I was like, there's probably not a street called that.
Le Rowdy. Yeah, you know, I mean, they do have that here, like, you know, English names, but they just put like le or la in front of it. Just so
really?
Then it's French, you know.
There you go.
Yeah. For example, you know how KFC is called here?
Well, how?
It's PFK. It's poulet frites Kentucky.
Whoa! Now it's a fancy place for chicken.
Exactly. That's some fancy chicken, you know.
Say that again.
PFK, poulet frites Kentucky.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Kentucky Fried Chicken, but done in French. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know why. Don't ask me.
Every time you do it, Rowdy, every time I feel less and less smart. Every time we get on the podcast, either science or your finesse, man. It's just great. How you been anyway, man? How's that beard coming along?
I've been great. That's mostly what I've been doing. You know, this is almost my full-time job nowadays, like keeping this in tone. But no, I've been great. You know, like whoops. That wasn't me, by the way. That wasn't me. You know, everyone's looking at me right now. But the thing is, the weather has been improving a little bit here. We've had like some horrible weather in the past week. I know that you've had it pretty rough as well, Zim, probably with that.
Yeah.
I think it was the first time since 1980 that we had something like this. I mean, so it's the first time that I've experienced it. But it was crazy because I've never seen rain freeze immediately when it hits a tree. Ultimately ending up with so much ice on the tree that the trees just start falling over. That was pretty insane. Yeah.
Ah, that answers it. Because I have 3 big, like, old oak trees. And because we got so much rain, the ground was kind of soggy and saturated. But I was wondering, because a bunch of them that have stood up even through like last summer's big windstorm are now tilted over. And I think that answers it. They were weighted on top and actually they're all at like this funny angle now. And I'm just hoping that one won't come crashing down and cut the podcast. But, you know, If I all of a sudden go dark, then you know why. But you've answered that for me, Rowdy. Anyway, yeah, we survived the storm here as well. But man, it was really patchy that day. It was like up and down. Loads of people lost power, and thankfully my street wasn't affected by that. But yeah, I'm just happy not to go through that again. Because going without power and internet,
Exactly.
and internet mostly the internet,
What am I gonna do?
is just. Yeah, you're like
Books?
Wow, this is kind of boring. It's like my kids. I always give out to my kids because I'm like, you got all these things that you can do. But like when we were in the basement playing board games, with literally my stream lights lighting the scene, because we had no power. It was like, wow, this is like modern day ghetto. It was great. It was really fun. But yeah, so Canada's kind of going through the dark and all that. Anything you want to highlight there, Rowdy, over the last week or so?
No, I don't think I've had a major highlight. I mean, I'll probably tune in on what I expect your highlight to be. So maybe I'll tune in there.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, next one up. Adam Bombardi is a difficult lass to describe, whether she's spraying illicit graffiti, searching for a big old stick to grab, or just packing heat in a church. This gal's not the friendly girl next door. Oh no, this here is the troublemaker. She is truly the source of all of America's problems. And with that, I introduce you to 2023's Miss Dystopian America.
Yay. Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone and my parents and my family, etc. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of just dabbling, like a lot of small dabbling into multiple games. Like I finally tried the ones that I've been behind on. Like I've tried Light Brigade because I heard a lot about that, and that one was better, more interesting than I thought. Because I'm not like a dungeon crawler kind of person, but I enjoyed that. I had tried a little bit of Gambit, which is kind of like maybe it needs to cook a little longer. So I'll give it like. They're supposed to be like basically me and my group had a bunch of crashes, so I can't even really give it a good like. Yeah, it was fun,
What's it supposed to be? It looked like an FPS merged with a graffiti sim. It couldn't work out.
Supposed to be a PvE campaign co-op game. It has PvP too elements though, like you can do deathmatch, and I forget what their other multiplayer mode's called, but yeah, like. We got it a couple days before, and there's just kind of a lot of crashes, so we couldn't really get far on it. Supposedly they're going to have a patch coming for it a week out from, after the holidays, so sometime late next week. But I'm like, man, I wonder if the damage has already been done, because if you look at their Steam reviews, it's mostly negative, and that's rough. It's
a shame, because it kind of had a cool look. And it's a really cool name. I don't know. I liked Gambit, the X-Men guy, and I liked it coming out with the exclamation mark and everything. And I thought, oh, this maybe has a chance. But
I liked from what I could play, I kind of liked the style of it, since it's more Borderlands-y, edgy humor kind of a thing. But yeah, there's just a lot going on.
No Man's Sky exists, so you don't give up on games anymore, Like
that's true.
Games can come out, fall on their face, and still get up again. So we got hope for Gambit. Very good. What else did you get to tinker with?
The Light Brigade. I got to a little bit of that, and that was interesting. It's normally I give up really quickly on challenging games, but for whatever reason, this one kept me going. And like, okay, no, just one more dungeon. And then I've also been diving back into Horizon Call of the Mountain, mostly because I wanted to make a tutorial series on achievement hunter stuff. So getting all the warning beacons, stacking those stupid cairns. I hated those so much. And the legendary collectibles and all that stuff. So I had to replay it though, because I know once you finish, you can go back and do all the levels again. But I didn't want to just do like, here's where the beacon would have been. I've already got it. So I wanted to do it legitimately for the video. So I had to replay the whole thing. It was much faster the second time, but it did take a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you have to go right the way through the game. But I looked at your TikTok and I was like, Jesus Christ, how many games have you played in the last just couple of weeks? It's mad. Like,
and it's funny you've been mentioning. Yeah,
I machine gunned it. You're like right the way through. So yeah,
I think last weekend was when I got most of it. But it's funny too, because even not on the VR side, like you mentioned, the weird duality of the stuff I play. I'm like, oh, I've got Disney Dreamlight, but then I also got Chernobylite that I'm playing at the same time. It's like just two different, very contrasting games, and I love both of them. But yeah, I don't know. It's been a productive week or productive 2 weeks, I suppose, since we last spoke, I guess. So maybe and then of course, Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, I still have to go back to that. And it's just a lot, just too many games, which is good, but a problem to have, I guess.
That's exactly how I feel right now. Is that like you want to almost take a taste of everything on the smorgasbord, but then you need to go back and you almost need like 10 or 20 hours for each piece to kind of properly do that, you know? And that's kind of feel where we are at the minute. Quite a lot out there, and it's not just PSVR 2 stuff. There's quite a bit on PC and other platforms as well. I can't keep up right now. I honestly can't. I'm putting more hours into it than ever, but still, it's just like it's a tornado. So great. Any specific highlights out of that, or that was fine? You just wanted to give us a cross section of kind of what you were touching on.
I don't think any highlights because it's just been everything. It's just been a lot of everything. But yeah.
Good. Look forward to see where you go with that tips series. I might need it. I'm actually saving. I've been saving Call of the Mountain as like something that I'll play. Well, honestly, when the price drops. But
you haven't played it yet.
I have not played it. I only played the demo. I played the demo through only, so I haven't played the full experience yet. And it's nice. I'm seeing like the audience, the general audience, like warm up a bit more up to that. So, yeah, I'm saving it. So I might
beat it twice.
All right, it's on then.
What a flex.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next up. Having survived the desert, he's back with us today as much as a dust devil as those you would see in Nevada. A whirling dervish. He's a revolutionary, stops at nothing, a go-getter with a portable custom PS5 gaming suitcase in tow. His name's Jose, and it's time for him to say...
What's up, you guys? Yo.
I told you it was revolutionary. How you doing, Jose? How's it going, man? Good to have you back.
Not much, man. Hopefully my voice is a little bit back to normal, but it's been an absolute whirlwind the last 4 weeks, the last 3 weeks. Time is a blur for me. I have pretty much given up on tracking time. I don't want to have a watch around me. I disabled my clock on my iPhone. I just have alarms now that just tell me where to be. It's been absolutely crazy. Oh, dude, honestly, I believe you. I believe you. GDC was yesterday in my brain. That's how much has been happening. But a little bit trailing off to what Adam was talking about. I did a little bit of a lot of just trying desperately to have VR in my life because VR has been the main theme in my life, but from the business side, a lot of relationships, conversations, showcasing, what my company does and our hardware, that I've started realizing it's, I don't want to become that guy to the point that I'm completely detached from, what I love, which is video games. So I've been playing a lot of The Last Clockwinder, which, oh yeah. That I was saving that because I wanted to see your reaction, Rowdies, which is, oh, dude.
Nice one.
Oh, I am so, man, I feel dumb not playing that game when it released. Being able to pair that up with, I used the new hand trackers from HTC just to like really make the hand tracking phenomenal with an XR Elite with wireless streaming on my laptop, and I was playing The Last Clockwinder at points that I shouldn't be playing The Last Clockwinder. It was awesome. But yeah, that's kind of where I've been. It's there's so much to talk about, and we'll talk a little bit more about when we start talking about Amusement Expo and all that. But yeah, I guess the theme for me has been like I love VR, and now I'm like desperately trying to make sure that I don't forget that, which is playing a lot of games. I actually am. You mentioned the PlayStation 5 Portable, which is just like a godsend. Now I'm just being able to talk to people and be like, oh, I got a PS5 with a VR2 right here and then. I accidentally became an evangelist for VR, which is, I guess, what I always been, right? So it's pretty dope.
Nice.
That's nice. You've been such tracking. I remember when you told me you're like, we're driving across the desert overnight and all this kind of stuff. It was like, oh man, this guy's booking it like just from one place to the next. And it was the same thing at GDC when we met up. It was so nice to finally get to meet in person, and just hang out a few times. That was nice. That was really good.
Dude,
it was. But
and real quick, when you mentioned the road trip, it's like you remember it's like the the humanity part of this industry, right? Which is people love more than just VR, right? They love other interests. So it was actually my first time on a road trip with one of my lead technicians who happens to be a hardcore VR transhumanist person. We're talking about like anime fan. Like this kid is like I honestly I compare him to like the Sadly Bradley Lynch's level of industry love. So it was just like 12 hours of nonstop like anime music and
Oh man.
techno. It
There
was a
is
wake
not
up call, man.
there is
It was
not
like,
enough of there was not enough of that human connection in life. Like I realized that a few years ago where I used to fly into where my wife was at the time studying in university, and I was just like a corporate kid at that point, and I was flying in and playing the student life for 2 weeks, and I was like, this is amazing, right? Like being in dorm rooms and just playing poker, whatever. And I was like, I need more of this in my life. And then fast forward 10 years or whatever, and I'm like, okay. And so we started doing this like barbecue thing in person. But like that road trip side is the same thing. When you're trapped together with other humans and you just have to kind of like be in each other's existence for a while, there's like a more human part comes out, which is great. And you're just getting to compare stories and think about stuff, and it's just such a ride. So man, enjoy that while you've got it, because I feel like those moments in life are just so precious, just like some of the parties that we had at GDC. But chat last time, just to kind of catch us up, and it's a little bit of a slipstream from the last podcast where we talked about GDC, and you didn't get a chance to kind of outline your thoughts. Maybe we'll pick your brain before I turn to chat now. Just about what stood out to you about GDC 2023, and there was a specific question actually about the Pimax Crystal and your thoughts about that. So if you could just maybe spend 5 minutes and give us
yeah.
a lowdown.
I guess the what stood out for GDC was once again the enthusiasm for the industry. There was a lot of maturing overall what VR means. Before, VR used to be segmented in its own little niche area, where GDC this time everybody was offering VR in some way, shape, or form. A lot of VR integrations, a lot of tools. Um, it almost felt like a ignoring of the VR industry, but when you actually look at from a very high level position, it actually goes to show the VR industry is actually much larger to the point it has integrated itself into the overall gaming industry. So everybody who was there showcasing a game already had pipelines for virtual reality or for some mixed reality. I heard you guys just talk about the last podcast about GDC. There really isn't much that I could add of value except the business enthusiasm, which is there's so much stuff behind the scenes being done. We usually tend to talk about the games and experiences, but infrastructure, technology, hardware. I actually was able to see, and I don't know if I can talk about this a lot, but I was able to see like new versions of like the pew pew guns and a lot of like
Oh,
integrated
nice.
haptic peripherals that we normally expect to see like in Steam VR open XR environments, but now coming to like the Focus 3s and Pico, like Bluetooth based tracking haptics and peripherals. So that's that's the exciting part, is that everybody now is focused on how do we make all of this fun and exciting and cool, including my company, right? That's kind of where everybody's focusing out. It's let's just expand on adoption. So that's the theme. I think next year, and if anybody's planning or allocating or budgeting to for the events, that GDC is a must next year.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the same thing as going to AWE last year, where everybody who went last year was like, this guy's the next one, that's the one, because it's the industry's back. The pandemic was a genuine unfortunate blow to the industry, and I feel like everybody is, unfortunately, they're over it. People want to move forward as fast as possible.
100%. I like what you're saying there about the kind of cross blend though, and certainly being my first GDC, it was nice to see. It was probably one of the first where I saw VR so well mixed in with the general splay of a convention hall, and it wasn't there in like weak little pockets. It was heavy hitting, almost anywhere you'd turn on the floor. And to me, that was just, hey, it's my first time. Maybe this is what it's always been like. But certainly when I look back at pictures from previous GDCs, which they have archived online, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, of photos, it wasn't the case. And so it's really nice to see that transformation. And like you say, It's back, baby. You know, the business is back and everything's kind of like booming in the right direction and people get to get together and damn, that was so good.
Especially the resolution booth. That was the exciting part. Like they had one of the best booth babes there, man. Like I believe, like man, I almost made me forget about that, Zim. Like it was my first time, obviously, second time because we met at the party and I've seen you a few times before that. But I remember my team asking me. I don't remember if it was my CEO, but after meeting you, they go to me and ask, "Is Zim Canadian?" Because you have, and I'm going to use the correct quote. This is a quote from Rekkie. You are aggressively Canadian, which is the best compliment because I'm from New York. I'm from upstate, so we usually associate the term Canadian with a very kind person. That they're just aggressively, just optimistically themselves, and that just and it was just like, man, that is a really good definition of Zim. Aggressively Canadian. I love it. I love it. I will make sure he knows that.
I am going to put that on my citizenship application. I'm going to be like, I am known for being aggressively Canadian. There you go. Yeah.
Put a reference down for Jose.
There we go. Yeah. Oh, I'm willing to vouch for that. But man, it was so cool. Like just seeing the VR enthusiasm, man, and just seeing the people putting in the right investments into operations of VR, because that's what I care about, right? Like the same with they would live when they have Adam there. It's like, man, it gets you excited because you see like, oh, people are they're paying attention to the actual voices of this industry and putting the right people in it. So that's really that's my highlight of GDC is the love is in the right place. I actually had a conversation, and this is not GDC related, but very related to what we're talking about. But I had a conversation with some of the technical leads at Resolution, and being able to thank them for their help with our podcast and the support and being able for them to share their love for VR. It kind of recharges your battery just tenfold.
It really, and I don't. The thing that that I've noticed over time is there's almost a lack of like competitive Vigor. It's more, it feels like a family. It really does, and you just see devs collaborating and working towards like a shared future. Now I don't know if that was the case pre-lockdown as well, but certainly in the VR AR space, like man, people are just like working together towards something, want to show off for each other, and like this is the cool thing that I'm doing, and just loads of just help, right? And I don't see infighting, at least not now. So it's great to see. Can't wait for the future, and it does feel like the rockets finally got fueled in its engines again. That's really how it feels. So great to hear from you about your GDC taking. So we got some more a little bit later about Vegas and stuff like that as well from Jose. So stick around. Let's stop and just take a look at chat for a second, maybe. Adam, if there's anything in there you want to call out what people are doing. I know we were asking a few minutes ago if there's anything there.
There's Vertigo 2, which, okay, guiltily, I still have to play I'll finish. Okay, I played some of the first Vertigo. I just had never finished it. So that one is like particularly, I got to get there, but I want to do it right. I don't want to, I heard that you can maybe just jump into Vertigo 2 without the first one, but I don't want to. I don't know. I've heard some people say that there's a recap in the beginning, but I'm like, no, I want to do the first one, the remastered. You're gonna do
remastered?
Yeah, because I have that one. And I have played, I don't know how long, what is the halfway point really, but I played some of it. It was just one of those things where I got distracted and then it fell off, so I've got to, do it all over again.
The story is I mean, it's strange, right? Like it's very. I wouldn't say that you like even after playing Vertigo 1, it's not like you understand all of a sudden what's going on. At least not me.
No, same. It feels like Half-Life 1 on acid.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like.
Sort of like Half-Life mixed with Rick and Morty a little bit, like a tamer Rick and Morty sort of.
Yeah, the comedy is the thing that stood out for me was that I was really impressed that a 16 then 9-year-old or 19-year-old could come up with a game and the comedy and the visuals and the sound and all that like all together. It was just like, holy cow, this guy's like talented, and then just to be able to stick to it to deliver a second game, that's impressive without even opening the package. Now I haven't played Vertigo 2 either. I'm going to personally wait probably a month before I touch it. So you'll probably get to it before I do, Adam. Even though you're going through
Beating it twice.
Vertigo
Oh.
Remastered. Yeah, beating it
I'll play it
twice.
twice.
But I'm looking forward to that. It's getting great reviews from people that I would trust their opinions of. So I would say, for a lot of people, it's getting close to, if not surpassing, Half-Life Alyx type feel. And it certainly looks great from what I've seen. So Vertigo 2 is out. Go play that before we get to spoil it for you with our thoughts and feelings on it. Good. Thanks for that shout. Okay, so I suppose in terms of my own highlight, I'll just cover that quickly. One quick mention on the music front was that there's a guy who does live loops and mixes called Mark Rebier. And when it comes to immersion, like music has always been a really important part for me. If you're interested in that, I think it's actually running in tandem with this podcast, probably launching in a minute. I'm not trying to distract you, but he's got a second episode of We Outside. His name is Mark Rebier. That's Mark with a C. If you just typed in We Outside and Mark, you'd probably find him. He does stuff live and does mixes in front of a crowd, but I've seen him before in like a pizza place. And this last week was outside in New York in a park. Just starts off with a couple of decks, does his loops on a mic, and then the crowd just grows and grows and grows. And like if you're sitting down for a 2-hour watch and you're really into music, I can't think of a better thing. So that's my kind of little recommendation on the music side. But on the games side of things, I did want to talk about eyes for a minute. And I've got a good one and a bad one. So on the good side, as Rowdy was probably alluding to, I got to play Before Your Eyes on PSVR 2, which is an eye-tracked game and driven by blinks. So some of those are like intentional blinks, like you look at something and select with your eyes, and some involuntary. In other words, when you blink, the story advances. Just to give a bit of context for my comments on kind of this, my favorite film, for a number of reasons, is Jim Carrey's wonderfully imperfect Endless Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Love that film. So being mindful of game spoilers here, I'm going to stay very high level in what I describe about the experience. First off, it's about a 90-minute tale that by the end of it had me in streaming tears, which I didn't think was going to happen. Maybe that gets me back for putting Karen in deep water or something. But anyway, I personally found the portrayal of like fading memories of like a slip in control over memory, in particular, to resound with me in like a really special way. It's probably the best $20 Canadian I've spent, because this film, they put you like smack into the middle of a family's journey. And I didn't think it was going to strike me in the way it did. It was a wonderful experience from the very opening. Within the first 30 seconds, I knew I was going to like this thing. I could just tell. And I can't imagine doing that in anything but VR. So I'm not going to say more about it. Very worthwhile. If you're like, hey, should I watch something on Netflix, or maybe I should go by Before Your Eyes and just do the hour and a half, try it. See if it resonates with you in the same way. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I watched, I think, the entire game on your stream. But indeed, it's like what I kind of imagined VR would be very successful for. It's not really a game. I wouldn't call it a game. It's more like, it's like an interactive experience. Very much like, how is that called again? The detective game where you need to solve Tesla's murder.
In the Invisible Hours.
Yes, I would classify that as the same kind of genre, where you have a story that is like going on and you're part of that story. This time you're seeing it from a first-person perspective. With the Invisible Hours, it's more like, you're like this, being that's floating around or whatever. But it's that immersive kind of theater, I think, that VR just does really well. And I think that's also why you get a much stronger like emotional connection to that story, because you feel you're part of that story. And I think that's a really cool 100%. Kind of way of doing VR, because I wouldn't classify this really as a game like
I would agree with you.
Some other VR games, yeah.
And like when I was growing up and through school years and stuff, like I used to be involved in drama and putting on plays and stuff like that, and then was working behind the scenes on lighting and things like that. But it feels, I really agree. Anytime I get into VR and it really gives me that kind of artful, experiential envelopment, like you lose yourself in it, and then you're part of it. And then what this game does with the timing and the pacing and everything that they do, it's magical. It's like poetry, right? Like it it just takes turns.
It's storytelling.
And it's not like
right.
It's very well paced storytelling, a quality end product, and the part about this specifically that sung to me was like you don't have control. Sometimes you're like trying to think of a childhood memory or something like that. And you're trying to remember it, right? And you feel like you've got grip on it, but just a little bit and just not enough. It's frustrating, right? And so there were times when I would blink and the story would advance, and I really didn't want it to, and I missed it.
Yeah.
And it felt real. That part felt like, and you could replay it, right? You could replay
that.
it.
That does increase the replayability. Yeah.
There's like real loss. There's real loss in the storytelling, and it just felt so genuine. It gave you enough traction that you didn't feel out of control. You didn't feel frustrated.
I find it hella frustrating. I find it hella frustrating. But I do think it's cool that you. I think it should be frustrating.
I agree. I think it should, to some extent. There should be that like dip of disappointment when you miss something you really think you should have seen.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask that. Do you feel that replaying it, or the more times you replay it, completely makes that game lose more value, or the special factor if you play more than once?
No, I think exactly because of that you miss parts of the story. And also
you could totally,
because there's certain choices you need to make, right? So the story would, I'm guessing, I mean, I only saw Sims playthrough, but I'm guessing that you have different branches that ultimately will end up similarly, roughly, but the story that is being told is going to be different. So I think that is a cool kind of way of replaying it. Yeah.
And there are game elements that'll surprise you in the telling. I'm not going to spoil them because I thought they were really fun to kind of find my way through. But yeah, Jose, I know you had expressed a concern that maybe you'd like blink your way through it.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I think if you did, you would absolutely go right back around the track again. Someone else was mentioning, Hussein was mentioning 1111. That was a good one about kind of the end of a planet. I remember some like nuclear holocaust type job.
You could turn the blinking off as well, right?
You can turn the blinking off if you want. I recommend leave it on for your first play, at least.
I know what I'm buying now.
That was good. That was really, really good.
It's like
I'm curious to hear. That's the thing. I've never sat there struggling so hard not to blink. And I'm talking. I just played Switchback a few nights ago. That one, you're like in certain sequences.
You
I was
have
like,
to blink to progress.
Why is nothing happening?
Yeah,
you know, it was kind of funny, but this was the opposite. Like I was actively trying to stop. Anyway,
I don't know if this question is asking for a spoiler, but do they play around with the ability to not control blink? Like, do they give you a jump scare to force you to blink?
In Switchback?
In
Before Your Eyes.
In Before Your Eyes.
There's no jump scares in.
Okay, because it would have been cool if they. I wasn't like maybe not a horror game-esque, but since they're playing around with that mechanic, like what if
they do play around? They do use that mechanic for certain parts of the game.
Correct. There are surprises,
okay,
but nothing that I would classify anywhere in the category of like a jump scare. No.
Okay. No, I was more talking about like the reactions of a jump scare. Like, yeah, you flinch and you close your eyes.
The thing is, the blinking in the game. It's not only a game mechanic, it's part of the story.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really neat. Really neat. And there are very stark jumps from you're talking about story A and then all of a sudden you're somewhere completely different, and it's great. Just try it.
Awesome.
That's all I can say.
No, I'm interested now.
Well worth the ticket price. I felt like I came at a cinema theater experience. Well happy with my purchase.
Let me just say that for the next, like after the game was over, Sim was too scared for 15 minutes to take his headset off.
Oh, because he didn't want to see people see him crying.
I guess so.
Oh man.
It was probably 6 or 7 tears came out of my eyes and involuntarily.
Yeah, you want to get that wet.
I went straight to the next game. I was like, I'm not taking this off. Yeah. So speaking of crying, every so often you learn something or you see something that just changes your perspective, like for good or bad. And this time it was about the PSVR 2. And unlike the Rift or Quest 1 and Quest 2, the PSVR 2 is like an open-sided headset. That's right. You can actually, this was a great surprise to me. You can go into the headset, look in, and see a circuit board in there. which I didn't realize until about the middle of last week. So the real worry for me is probably someone who's like working out heavily and then drips sweat into their headset, into a place that they can't clean, and fries the headset that way. But for me personally, it's spiders. Oh yes, I mean spiders love a dry nesting environment, and let me tell, I'm sorry, Adam, I've ruined a few people's lives, but I've got to like beg that hardware designers think about this. Like the Quests, for example, had this like cloth membrane that was covering it up. So even if the lenses were moving with an IPD adjustment, everything back there was covered, right? Was covered, and you couldn't get at it. This is like open to the world, and I am being a severe arachnophobic guy and a little bit of a paranoid fella.
Well, you've seen those pictures on Reddit where you see like little spiders in people's headsets. So now, great, thanks for bringing that to my attention.
Just imagine
really
they start nesting there, and like you're like in the middle of a horror game, and all of a sudden you see like all these little spiders.
So
like,
you think it's the haptics?
So realistic.
Like gorgeous OLED blacks should not be met with like wonderful little like the feeling of spider feet going across your face or across your eyeballs. So yeah.
So not to blink, but I feel like I need to blink.
That just disturbs me. I'm still terrified because I do have spiders. I play in a basement.
That's what I want. That's a real VR challenge. Forget strapping bombs to a headset. Let's strap some spiders to a headset.
I'd rather the bombs, dude. I would take the bombs over the spiders any day.
Kill spiders, at least.
Oh God, Lord Almighty!
How about if you
can't? Making me nervous.
What if the spiders cannot like physically touch you, but you can actually see them behind the lens? Ew. So you know they're there at all times.
Like Fear Factor VR headset.
Yeah.
You really are for an entertaining thing, right? You're just gonna have me in a box, like in a box there.
I think we should try that. I think we should try it out.
Aggressive Canadian gets attacked by spiders. You know,
that's a great YouTube title.
That's a marketing campaign for Tim Cook for Apple. Like, hey, you guys want to try out the upcoming headset or see it? It's inside this bucket of spiders.
Send it to the aggressive Canadian.
Let's see who's going to review it first.
Oh my Lord. Okay. Sorry. With that, we're only 40 minutes into the show. Let's get into the news. Let's leap like a fox spider onto the Flappy Bird that we call the newsreel. All right. So, April Fools passed us by, and as boomer a thing as that is, and I know Jose's going to call me out on that. I've pulled 2 diamonds out of the rough, out of the treasure box for you. Okay. The first one, and this one is very much focused on Mr. Rowdy, is the Razer Razor. To complement his new headset, which is a brand new Razer headset, there's this mouse that has shaving capabilities, running at a blistering 360 follicles per second. It sports the tagline, "Feel sharp, play sharp," and it's got these little rollers here, and you just shave away. So he's going to roll that lovely April Fool's trailer. It's amazing. Starts off with a bearded gamer sitting there playing away some FPS, and he's got the Razer Razor in his hand. So he's able just to quickly boom, take that beard right off and feel sharp and look sharp for his games ahead.
Actually,
what do you think, Rowdy?
We're going to do it live on streams.
It changed to something very interesting all of a sudden.
That would have been amazing. Oh, man.
Favorite of the April Fool's ones. The ending of that particular video goes very to Manscaped area, but anyway, we'll leave that alone. Keep your mice out of your pants, gentlemen.
I'll watch it later.
Yeah, I'm sure she will.
Safe.
Probably make a TikTok out of it. TikTok. And then the second one that I liked. Oh man, I like this one. Was from Decagear. Well, you remember that team who took a placeholder payment and then vanished. They got punked by their ex-staff on April Fool's Day on LinkedIn and on other platforms. Rowdy, this is one I'm going to ask you to read out for us. It's like 3 paragraphs, but man, it's a gem.
All right, just a second. I'm going to pull it up on stream as well.
Good man. But yes, this is what we could. This is gone, by the way. It's not on the internet anymore. It only lasted I think about 48 hours before somebody took it down. But my God, it was fun.
All right, I got it up. It's this one, right? Megadota Simulation Games.
Yep.
Greetings, everyone. We are thrilled to announce the production of the highly anticipated VR headset, the Decagear, has officially started. For those who have pre-ordered, your Deca soon is almost here. We're excited to share that in addition to the previously announced features such as eye tracking and fingerprint login, the Deca gear will now also include the use of pancake lenses and OLED microdisplays. These advancements will enhance the overall VR experience, providing an even more immersive and realistic experience for users. We cannot wait for you to experience the Deca gear for yourself and see just how incredible it truly is. Our team has been working hard to make sure that every aspect of the headset is perfect, and we are confident that you will love it. Now, as a quick reminder, we want to stress the importance of OPSEC. This post is a prime example of why it's critical to ensure that admin access is revoked for anyone who is no longer an employee of the company. So please take the necessary steps to safeguard your information and ensure that your company's data is always secure. Thank you for your support, and we do hope that you enjoyed the Deca gear and your April Fool's Day.
Yep, that is Deca.
Painful.
Was this like a disgruntled ex-employee who realized they still had access to the company's LinkedIn or something?
That's exactly what that is. That's exactly what that is. I love it as well because it's like because from what we heard, people were let go. They were ramping down all of a sudden, and the staff basically got the shoe out the door with nothing. It was just a carpet pulled out from under their feet.
Yeah.
And so this is somebody who still has access to that account and is like, hey, what's going to be funny in 2023? Yeah. So Deca
I don't work
gear.
for him anymore.
if nothing else, it's just another resounding echo of what could have been the Deca gear headset, which I think we will never see.
Yeah.
Which is sad because Rowdy and I love the Deca Move, the little hip tracker device.
Yeah,
Loved it a
was
lot.
Yeah.
So it's a shame that they're not going to be a reality. But if April Fool's is going to do anything, I think beard shaven mice and pissed off Deca employees is I think what it should be. All right. So that is that. Speaking of things, that passed on to the other side, we also have Bloomberg, who were saying that Sony was only hitting 270,000 units of their PSVR 2 by the end of March. IGN reported that as an underwhelming start. So take that from that what you may. I personally think it's a load of bollocks because that attachment rate for PSVR 2 is, I still find to be substantial. 270,000 against, let's say, the old, DK2 days of 3 months in and they only had 10,000 units in the wild or whatever it was. It's the tail for this headset, I think. This is my personal prediction. I think it's going to be pretty fat and long because the attachment that I'm seeing through the goggles of Reddit that I've worn for about a decade now, Reddit, like new user posts, are not slowing down. And when people finally get their hands on it, which is currently only sold in certain markets, they're bigger markets, through the direct Sony website. It's not in the stores or anything yet. It's easy to play, it's easy to spend, and it's easy to keep going with the good times. And so I just think that a lot of journalists are making a lot of noise over something that is rather expected at this point of their sales cycle, given the outlets where you can actually buy one. And I don't think it's actually representative of any kind of a slowdown or failure or emergency brake needed type situation for Sony. That's just my opinion, my 2 cents on the matter. But I certainly I don't like these. I don't like these posts. I really don't.
But I mean, it's clickbait, right? You get these posts for Xbox, you get these posts for anything, and I mean, it's true that probably, expectations are always high for these kind of things, and to meet these kind of expectations is always going to be an issue. But I agree with you that I do think that the PSVR has maybe struggled to maybe sell, but I don't think it's because there's people not wanting to buy it, but it's probably because of supply chain, logistics, production, all of those kind of things that play a role as well.
Just affording it is a big player here, I think.
Of course,
right now. People are feeling, their heating bills, their rent, whatever it is, right? And I get that plays a factor, but I think it's too early to yell a death knell for a headset that's as awesome as PSVR 2. I really think it's too early.
And I think it's also important to note that when you look at historical, sales calls or sales announcements, when the internet started really blowing up and access to for public relations and investor calls started being streamed over the internet, the messaging and conversations with investors started changing and adapting. They were fully aware that this is no longer really public, but actually now open to the competitors. So when you're a large company like Sony that is selling an attachment directly through your sources only, and you're able to now have real sales data that says, when you look at the numbers, 4% of the overall PS5 marketplace, and that they're talking about that at a global level. You can't get the PSVR 2 in like 80% of the PS5 market at the moment. So a 4% is really probably like a 3 to 5 attachment rate for the US. So it's actually a really, really good number. The problem is, how do you convey that information to the savvy investors, to the people who are actually putting up money at the highest of levels, and also don't encourage a competitor to come into space? So you have to be careful with how that information is funneled. So by saying, oh, we were disappointed that we didn't sell 100% of all our units, instead we only sold 4%. Right. So when you actually start looking at the numbers are phenomenal for an attachment rate of a device that only came out less than 2 months ago.
One question, Jose, the 4% you're quoting. So there was a separate statistic.
Yes.
That was 4% of teenage
Adoptions,
headset
yes.
owners. So that's different. I don't know
Sorry,
if we're in the same
and
spot.
I guess
I think it was
conflating
half
both,
a percent or 1% of the, based upon the PlayStation 5, PlayStation 5's in the wild, the attachment rate, so to speak, who's buying the add-on, who's buying the PSVR 2. I believe it was between 0.5% and 1%.
Yeah.
But still, 270,000 of these things out there in the first 6 weeks.
It's incredible.
I don't see how you put a measuring stick against that. And I mean, even if you take the earlier Bloomberg news that we had, which if I remember correctly, there was a prediction that, I don't remember if this was in 2023, it was something like 1 million units, right? They were expecting to ship 1 million units in 2023, and then they were revising that down. And I remember Sony saying, no, we haven't revised it down. That was a couple months ago, right? Just before the launch of PSVR 2. So I can understand it from a shareholder perspective, because if a company is saying, hey, we're expecting to make this much profit, this is how, how prolific we want our headset to be, and then they have to revise that down, shareholders can get nervous, and I get that. So I just wanted to clarify, the 4% that you were citing, you were
correct about the attachment rate
of
the overall. Okay. Yeah, and that's and sorry for conflating both numbers. The point I was trying to make is the way that VR or money is spent in VR on the consumer level has changed drastically, especially when you look at an all-in-one headset like a Quest 2. The all-in-one headset, weirdly enough, although it has multiple profiles and all of these multi-user quality assurance software additions, it always gives off the perspective that this is a unified, unique device for one person, where a home console doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Especially in the PSVR 2. You're not going to see somebody buy a PSVR 2 when they're sharing a PS5. So if they have one PS5 in the household, it might already be sharing multiple profiles, multiple libraries. It's the perspective is different. When you look at VR chat, there's a reason why VR chat is one of the biggest platforms in the world. There's money being spent in VR. It's just the way that money is spent. This is akin to when people were early on saying, I forgot the name of the business model, but I'll remember in a second. But games like Fortnite, the business model of them, people were like, oh, nobody would ever spend in the free-to-play games, and now it's one of the biggest ecosystems for gaming. It's just kids spend money differently. VR is going to take money differently, including how VR is adopted and looked at. I really do think that the attachment numbers, when you look at them from a very high level perspective, when you look at interest, when you look at the way that people spend money, the conversations, as you said on Reddit, the people that don't care about sales calls and sales numbers, they're not paying mind to those conversations. This is strictly business plays that are trickling misinformation in their sales calls in order to avoid, a Microsoft announcing support for the Quest 2 on their consoles, which seems like a real conversation that's happening behind the scenes, because at GDC I did mention that to a few Microsoft people and they were like, oh yeah, we know Oculus, we have support for them. You guys saw the Azure compatibility now for Quest. And I'm like, oh,
Yep.
Xbox Live Game Pass, duh. It makes sense.
And I think that's where I really think that we need that in VR at some stage. I mean, we saw it a little bit with HTC's offering, but an all-in-one smorgasbord of VR games to attach to a headset to keep people in, I think is going to be important in VR's immediate future, because one of the things that I see a lot of, not only people converting to like the console side, like PSVR 2, but again, we're into the phase now where Quest 2's not for everybody, but a lot of people have them sitting there and they're not necessarily revisiting. They're not going in every week. And this is where that 4% statistic comes out. So CNBC, who I don't particularly, again, look up to, but they were sharing a poll that was done by a company called Piper Sandler. They surveyed 5,600 teens in the US in February. And the reports of this were that VR usage of existing headset owners within that teenage population was 14% on a weekly basis, 4% on a daily basis. So those are the numbers, right, in terms of their poll. Of the polled population, 7% said they planned to purchase a headset versus 52% of teens polled who were unsure or uninterested. And again, it is where we are, I think, to some extent. And any statistics that we're put in front of you, whether it be in the podcast, you're reading a news article, you always have to look at them with a grain of salt, because this is one market, right? This is time of year. There's a number of different factors in this. But I wouldn't be surprised if you went up to an average teen and asked them, "Hey, you going to buy a headset?" And most of them were going to probably say no. And,
because their
and
parents
they were trying to look at it.
Exactly.
A lot of just to spend money on the console itself. That's like a lot of allowance money, and then to save up an additional, I don't know, several years of allowance money to get the headset. Like I could see,
this
it's rough.
Stat is generic, Adam, just so that you're clear. So this stat isn't tied to PSVR 2. This is any VR headset, and they were trying to compare it to like mobile phones, and they're like, hey, is this going to be as popular as is it replacing phones right now? And I think there isn't anyone who's saying that a VR headset replaces your phone at the minute.
I keep thinking of that meme. I forgot the actor's name, but he's holding the old guy holding the skateboard, and he's like, "Well, how do you do, fellow kids?" I just imagine this guy, like this old guy in a suit, like just trying to pretend to be cool. It's like, "What's up, kids? Like, are you gonna get a VR headset? Like, what kind of headset you're getting, dude? Like, who answers surveys? Like,
I think that's what like most media sites picture VR enthusiasts is that meme, and it's like that's not true. We're not hello fellow young kids.
Heartbreaking, and that's the problem. It's like if we and that's that data, those statistics, like they're unfortunately, like, think about it. What unfortunate reality does a teenager have to live where they're taking the time to answer a survey? Like nobody.
And how you survey matters.
Care. Exactly.
Right? Like, the one, like if you're surveying in a mall, for example. You're not going to catch any of those kids that were at home playing with a VR headset either, right? Like,
surveying is very hard, just in general. But I mean, they paint a picture. Like it's a general picture, but you need to take it with a grain of salt, because indeed, like what population are they surveying? How are the questions formulated? Usually surveys are made by psychologists because they have a better idea for like how, because you can ask a question, and if that question is leaning towards a particular answer, like you could, for example, say, I don't know, like due to like the recent controversy that is going on with Meta, are you going to buy a VR headset? Well, if you formulate your question that way, well, people are more likely going to say no, right? I mean, I'm not saying that they're doing that, but I'm just saying like surveys are very hard, and it's hard to draw a good conclusion from there. It's better to see it in general.
And people don't like liking things that are not cool. I if I was a 14-year-old and you would have asked me if I liked meta, I would have said no, simply because it's not cool. Some people are just more comfortable being followers in certain situations, especially when it comes to disliking a company, to hating a company, to mocking a person. It's the unfortunate reality of the internet. That's just how it works. It's You will never be able to really appropriately estimate an industry anymore because there's just too much noise and data. It's impossible. The only way you can get is by being involved in it, being in the Reddit, being in the thick of it. It's unfortunately the only way.
Yep. And again, I mean, it could be the case that we find ourselves in 6 months and maybe there hasn't been another decent software title that landed on PSVR 2 and it's all dried up.
Yep.
And
CNBC releases a title.
I'm eating my hat. Yeah, CNBC. I told you so. Exactly.
I told you so. It's dead. Oh man.
Well, speaking of dead stuff, let's talk about this one a little bit because there's another one that's fallen off my bucket list. E3 also got canceled. So IGN reported that this did not garner sustained interest necessary to execute it in a way that would showcase the size, strength, and impact of the industry. So E3 is canceled for 2023 and potentially the foreseeable future. It's likely that E3 might be a dead duck. So that's a little bit sad. I think, Adam, you've been to it. Jose, what about you?
I went to the last one they had, but even that one, there was like a big gap between that one and like a few years ago. So they had a like a press application that they were doing. So I applied and got in, was waiting to hear more details on the event. So it was really sad to see this because E3 that had been. I'm glad I at least went once before it's potentially never coming back again because that was kind of my bucket list. E3, Gamescom, like all back in the day. You didn't have that many, so it was only just the huge ones. So it's sad to hear, but I guess because so many companies are doing their own their own expos or whatever, or there's just so many now. They're like, I don't know what the pricing of to rent a booth at it.
Gaming has gotten so big that E3 is not big anymore. Basically, it's like Bethesda can do their own. Like they're like, oh, we have our own expo.
And also
it's better for their timing and logistics, and there's a number of benefits. But I just wanted to say, for the person who handled your press application, Adam, I'm sure they would have loved to read about your fake metaverse company.
Hey, shh.
Adam World.
That was only for one party only.
Beta
meta.
Meta.
We crashed a crypto party at GDC because we heard they had free food and drinks. And I'm not gonna lie, they did have good free food and drinks. That promise was fulfilled. But I was like, I don't really want to talk to any of these people.
They really do got the food. The crypto events got the food.
Was it real food though?
Okay, it was finger food, but it was pretty much like all you can eat finger food. Like they had people coming out in trays and they had like pizza out.
But they weren't like NFTs, like NFT fries.
I see what you
no. That's cute.
I could actually eat it, and so could everybody else.
That's E3.
Regarding E3, man, like I feel like what hurt them is what I saw and what we all witnessed. Rowdy, next you gotta come with us. But what we witnessed at GDC, it was the industry. People really care. It's like music, right? People really started caring the artist, but they started caring more about the producer also who writes the lyrics. The game industry has evolved to the point that we look up to game developers as rock stars now, right? So the GDC conference has turned into a meet and greet of sorts of the industry, which E3 was desperately being pushed towards for years. That's the reason you mentioned that you wanted to go there, was the bucket list. The E3 became a victim of its own arrogance. They were like, oh, this is going to be industry only. We're going to keep the polish. The last E3 I actually attended was 2 years before the pandemic. And this was before they were softening up to the overall industry. And I remember the headaches that my leadership at the time had to go through in order to get a badge as an exhibitor. It was completely like unresponsive. They were essentially asking for way more money. The industry side of events that's up there, a lot of people don't talk about, like E3s, the Amusement Expo, the PAX events. These are run by fright companies, by the companies that actually, you can't just start a company and say, oh, I'm going to have a booth by myself and set this up and bring in, cart my stuff into it. No, you actually have to go through a logistics, a shipping supplier. Most of them, they don't allow you to do anything on the booth without their say-so. So there is a technical mafia behind the scenes, right? So these mafias start getting very angsty. They want more money. They get more aggressive towards the booth operations and the vendors, which all spirals out of control. That's the reason why Nintendo pulled out. That's why Sony pulled out. The bureaucracy is just so large that these companies were like, why am I dealing with this? Let me do it
and
myself.
There's huge cost associated with it as well, which can be a big barrier to anyone who's indie, small or medium, even hurtful. Companies. Yeah. It's interesting. I've seen that. I saw that at VRLA, and like they were charging extortionate money to have a television on the stand. You know, it was something like 15 grand per TV. And it was like, guys, we can get this cheaper at Best Buy. And so that's what we did. We went to, you know, brought your own.
Do you want to know how much it is to get a TV at E3?
Please tell me. Go ahead.
It's $60,000.
What?
Fuck me.
What size are we talking about? TV?
I think a 55-inch LED.
Still big, but like that's a lot of money. Yeah,
that's because a lot of money.
They're the thing is they bring in the crew time, the effort to mount it, and all that kind of stuff, right? So you get that service, but you pay for it. And so
that's why PAX has done a really good job with the developers. There's a lot of value to these events that just we never often think about because we're so focused on showing up to the floor and showcasing the games, but the logistics and the mechanism behind these events are just so anti-business.
It shocked me. It really shocked me. When I was there, this was a couple years ago now, but when I was there in VRLA, it was like, I was learning from the dev side, like what it was costing in indie to kind of put a showcase together, just a half decent, smallish booth, you know? And it was like, wow, this is bloody expensive. Like they were maxing out credit cards, all that kind of stuff, just to be able to try to get the thing to work. So I understand that. And big players pull out and then E3 evaporates. So it's a sad thing that I won't get a chance to go because back in I suppose it was early 2000s or something, I used to look at that event as like, that's like gaming mecca. That's where all the big brands are, and I'd love to go. So we'll see. Maybe it's still got, you know, life in it. Maybe it'll come back one day, but for now, not happening this year. Another thing that's not happening this year, Quest 1 support for Golf Plus, which is a game I like a lot, is going away on October 3rd. And with that, we have a victor and a loser. So Walkabout Mini Golf wins out, and Pro Putt, the title by the same company behind Golf Plus, is dying. They're pulling the plug on Pro Putt, which was the game that kind of started everything off. Which is another mini golf game. And if you haven't played it, it's totally fine. It's totally a good game. But I think going up against the behemoth that is now Walkabout and other abilities to, you know, do pitch and putt and mini golf and stuff and games like Rec Room or, you know, VR Chat, it's going away. So not surprising necessarily. I find it's kind of welcome in the Golf Plus stack because if you go into a game and there's literally 3 sub games, it's very confusing from an end user perspective. So for them to streamline and actually focus on what they're doing great, which is Golf Plus, fantastic. I feel bad for Quest 1 owners though, because this is a forced upgrade for them, but hopefully there'll be a Quest 3 around the corner that they can step to before long. So with that, I don't want to just give you all sour news because I loaded it with all the stuff that's just died off and all that. Let's give you some good stuff. So what about the Steam Deck 2? Prototype of Steam Deck 2 has actually gotten into the hands of Linus's team, which is pretty neat. We've got some images of that for Rowdy to be able to show you. A sleek white device, a little bit smaller form factor. They've gotten rid of some of the flappy paddles on the back of it. And there's a blog post out there if you want to check out Linus Gaming's update on Steam Deck 2. I was very curious about Steam Deck, got to play with it over Christmas. Really think it's a cool system. And of course, with people like, sadly, it's Bradley calling out, you know, the whole idea of the Deckard, right? This idea of like a form factor that may be a headset or that it would play off of each other. And we'd see Valve again make a play in the VR HMD space. That's what makes me curious about it, but also as a handheld gamer, you know, the Steam Deck 2 looks pretty kind of cool. It's just really sleek, and I'm curious to see them iterate as they said they would. Even if this is like a 2025 product, this is maybe our first glimpse of what that might look like. So there's that. We also have another little bit of news, which I want to just help give a little bit of airtime to because I've really enjoyed what the developer created for us as creators and the game, which is Eye of the Temple is coming to Quest 2. That's the platform where really it deserved to be on because it's the headset that does, room scale better than any other one on its own. And so I'm really happy to see that. The game always kind of looked like it belonged on Quest 2 as well. Its graphical style was kind of fitting that. So I think that Quest 2 owners are going to really like that when that comes out. I don't know if that's slated for later this year necessarily, but it's being worked on. It's been announced, and very glad about that. With that, one more thing just about like VR parties. I know we all got to party, but so did the VR OGs who got together in Tuscany, which those of you who are from the age-old days of the reboot of VR, the reunion party for the Oculus DK1's 10th anniversary. It sported a high-quality scan of a DK1 booth from back in GDC in 2013. This really slick kind of white double-cross booth showing off, of course, the Oculus Development Kit 1, back when all of this wonderful rebirth of VR started. And it's just a lovely homage to see it with a bunch of people getting together. I see Mark Schramm in the background there popping out with his high-fidelity avatar. But I wanted just to kind of just applaud that. I think it's good that the family's getting together, for a reunion. And I look forward to seeing what we do with the 20th anniversary of the DK1, whenever that happens. Maybe Palmer will be in charge of some military division who makes VR headsets at that point. Speaking of the military, let's keep you all excited and on your toes. Do you remember FPS Enhanced Reality, the game where Apache helicopters and trained assassins would attack you in your home? And Rowdy and I were saying it was a bit nerve-wracking because, having Americans run down their big lofty corridors with fake guns and then having their kids pop up or whatever, it just sounds like a bad idea. But now we've got the first build of FPS Mixed Reality. So that's FPS Enhanced Reality. It's becoming FPS Mixed Reality. The dev has gotten outside, working with a Quest Pro, given the light level support that the Quest Pro offers outdoors. I mean, this thing features full APCs, rocket launchers. Oh, and did I mention he's gunning it around on a bloody motorcycle? He's got a Quest Pro on, outdoors, riding around, stopping every so often to take out some bad guys. Riding around his, I'm just going to call it a lofty estate, because I'm sure some dev would love to hear that about their place. But yeah, it's quite a large place he's got. But the last time I saw something like this, I think it was when Nathy was trying out the Pico 4 on a bicycle off in his homeland there somewhere.
It was in Belgium.
But
it was in Ghent.
Fast.
Oh, was it? It was in Ghent. Okay. Yeah.
He's going, yeah.
This is kind of nuts, like
That's
on the back of a motorcycle.
Did you just see this guy though on the street? Just someone doing finger guns with a controller, and was like, "What is this? What is?"
Somebody's gonna get killed. I see things like this, and I'm like, man, who's gonna He just looks so terrifying. This looks like a menace. I try to think of somebody who doesn't know VR. You just see this.
There's gonna be some old person who's gonna see, if he's got. I don't know if it requires.
But I mean,
but they're gonna see the controller in his hand and be like, "Oh my god, he's making shooting motions with the trigger."
Yeah, but I mean, to be honest, it's in the US. He's wearing shorts and he's white. I'm sure he's fine.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if he was outside of the US, it would have been bad. It's like,
yeah,
old person's like, this is what I've been reading and being scared of my whole life.
They're coming for us. Yeah, I know. It's it is mad though. I love these kind of crazy dev things, like what we had with the. There was another game that was where guys running full tilt across a field, and you're just expecting he's gonna break a leg one of these days, and there's obstacles coming at him, or the giant Beat Saber map that they had done, this custom one. I love these projects, you guys know that, but this one just looks so nutty. I do agree though, wearing a headset that could, I know it's pass through, but when the battery dies, so does your vision, and so it's not the
I mean, it's one thing to be doing pass-through while you're just standing, but when you're in a vehicle that could potentially kill people, the risk factor gets a little higher there.
I hope that if that happens, and if you die in a game, it should becomes all black. It should come up you died, it's in
Oh man.
Dark Souls.
You know, you ever seen like those
God, this has
really
gone
grim
dark.
there's like a really grim
Jesus, Ryan.
commercial of like this, like I think it's like a mom or something that shows like the last text message that somebody sent before a car accident. You can see somebody holding a headset. It's like this is the last screen they saw before their accident, and it's like the "you died" in red.
Oh yeah.
Game
I mean,
over.
I don't know. Do you guys in the States have like in Ireland they do crazy drink driving commercials, which is what they call drunk driving. So you'll have like little kid playing at a birthday party. Dad's like, oh yeah, and then all of a sudden you have like a little hatchback come rolling through a hedge
Oh
and
geez.
smashes over the kids, like all in an
Oh,
extreme,
man.
like almost like you're in a horror film. But this is shown to the general public as a wake the F up, don't drink and drive, you're going to kill a kid, right? That's like
Oh,
the
man.
idea. But they are so dramatic. Look them up online,
It's
Irish ads for
intense.
drunk driving.
Yeah, I
I'm-
remember. But
Probably is
the reason
effective,
why I
though.
remembered that is that I saw that in Josh Dobbs' video when he was doing rally driving. He did a YouTube, a VR YouTube video,
That's what he did, you're right.
and he
man.
he
Someone's gonna
pretended
edit.
he crashed. He was like, "Oh, good," and he jumped to
I
that
don't want,
ad
I don't want
where
somebody
you see.
to edit. I don't
It's
want
horrible.
somebody to edit and merge that one with like the Nathan and a bike video, but it would be funny. It would be funny if somebody sent that. But no, man, it's that's intense.
We are skiing very quickly down a dangerous slope in VR and AR for sure.
I'm so ready.
There are so many daredevils out there. Speaking of that, there's a company that makes AR snow goggles.
Of course.
So let's look at this one
Yeah.
next, right?
Makes
so
sense.
this is going to give you a full HUD while you ski, and the coolest feature I would say, I grew up a little bit in Alaska and I did learn to ski. The coolest feature is the ability to locate friends or family. They have an app that's attached that's part of the headset, and it gives you like a little directional pointer where your friend or family member or whoever you're skiing with is located. And if they're close to you, it doesn't show that at all. It also gives you, for example, this is the dangerous part, your speed miles per hour downhill. So you're like, yeah, I'm hitting 50, man. So it's got that like gamery HUD. There's a video on that page, Rowdy, that I want you to run because it probably gives the best representation. Now, this is a lopsided, lumpy brick of a battery that's attached to this, just to the side of your skull, right? So, like, it doesn't look like it's been that well engineered, and I'm a little worried about it from that side.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, right? Like, no one is winning a slimming contest in snow pants. Like, that just doesn't happen. Snow gear is bulky a lot of the time, but getting to see your top speed, the time, and your friend's location, so that you know where you are together, particularly if they run off the wrong pass, or let's say they hit a tree and needed help. The app, like the friend tracking component of the headset, to me is the neatest part. And the headset's, it's a $350 accessory, right? So that's not terrible. Years ago, these things were like $600, $700, $800. So the price really is coming down. Just to put it in perspective for those in the UK, that's about £280. The team at Rekkie are a US-based team, 4 friends, all people who enjoy like snowboarding, and they just split up the work and they manufactured this headset. And they have this lovely little tagline I thought I'd read out for you before I take your reactions to this thing. They said, "We're a group of friends that love skiing and snowboarding and are obsessed with creating goggles that unlock superhero performance in action environments." And that's Rekkie. That is the Rekkie AR snow goggle.
I mean, I clearly don't know enough about skiing, but like the only thing I can really see about this is that it shows you speed and like some direction. But like, what about it increases your performance?
It's not really about. So you're like superhero performance. So I think the purpose of the headset and who they're trying to really market it to is groups of individuals who are going to hang out together on a slope. And then the speed indicator. Now, I don't know. I mean, I haven't been around people who are skiing and snowboarders that much, but the attraction to me, if I was doing that, would be, what's my speed at a particular part of the track? So as I'm going down, let's say a diamond route, can I hit 60? Safely, right? But that's the sporting side of it, because you're trying to. It can be a maximum time, right? Like, for example, if you're skiing, one of the features of a ski course is often, can I get from A to B in a quicker time than someone else, right?
Are
So that
there
would be the selling point
markers
to me.
for like? I really don't know anything about skiing, or I don't think I ever touched a mountain of snow where the purpose is to slide on it. But are there
It's fun.
markers like that allow you to know like, hey, this is the trajectory of the route? Like, is there something that the headset like? Is there something visually in the training? So that's the
No,
problem.
no.
Yeah.
So I think where you're going is really where we think like Apple glasses will go in the
Mm-hmm.
future, like chevrons pointing you the direction to the Starbucks idea that we've talked about before. So if
Mm-hmm.
you could see like what's the safe route, or even better yet, like what was your ghost? Can you see your ghost from your
Mm-hmm.
last run? You know, things like that, almost you see like in kayak VR, would be really neat. But again, the tech that we have at home is so much more advanced than what we have on the slope. And
Yeah.
so it does look definitely a generation behind.
Okay.
And I think it will continue to lag, but AR I think is where we're at with
A
that. But then
hundred percent. Yeah.
where do you strap the battery, right?
Yeah.
So
And that's what scares me is like
that's the
right now,
question.
like there's no way like that's what always gets me very scared of anything AR related because if there's no way for a human to cookie cutter the process, like if you would have told me like for example like a basketball court, there's so much markers on the floor, there's so much data that you could theoretically teach a robot, hey, play basketball really, really well because it knows where it is at all times. Where on a snow slope, you really don't. I'm assuming everything's
Ah,
covered in white,
Variable.
so the headset
yeah,
won't
good
know
point.
what if that's really a
Like
hill or
markers,
if
landmarks.
yeah, there
Go
has
this
to be
way.
something.
Oh God. Jump
I
off a
don't know.
cliff. Yeah,
Like,
that's a very good point for tracking
Hmm.
purposes. I mean, how
yeah.
else would you do it? You could do GPS data. You could use that for
For positional, yeah. The problem is
to
that
reaffirm
yeah,
its assurance of knowing where it is,
yeah,
because
like
there's a lot of devices that you would use like when you're climbing
yes,
mountaineering, for example, to know your exact position, height,
dagger
scale,
based
air
GPSs.
pressure, all of that, right? So I would think a merger of those two
Hmm.
technologies would
Oh
work quite
man,
well.
now you're getting
you
me
couldn't just
excited.
use you couldn't just use inside out tracking
Yeah,
alone on a snow based surface. I can't
there
imagine
is
that would work
technology
well.
that 100% can do this. Funny enough, that's something that a lot of people that
Hmm.
talk that have that's spoken about like the military mixed reality
Applications.
headsets never even
Yeah.
talk about. So there's something called dagger technology, which is an evolution of GPS, which is a much more positional technology than a GPS. It's actually what the military was using up to maybe 10 years ago because they got something way better now, which is what new GPS is going to look like, which is using LiDAR and much more positional. Um, that new technology was what actually was being tested with the HoloLens. The
Right.
problem is that technology is so secret that most people that are talking about the military HoloLens don't even highlight that. But that's really the value of these mixed reality headsets. It's
Hmm.
the one-to-one, super precise global positioning that these headsets will be able to do, which will enable the skiing theoretically down a hill that will show you where people are at. It just won't be able to show you
I wonder.
exactly how that
Yeah.
hill will look like in the
I
headset.
I
It's
do wonder though, like lidar based systems are often kind of similar, like the Valve base station, a spinning laser based solution, right? So they're
mhm.
generally sensitive to impact, motion, calibration, where there's a number of things like they use them, for example, in robot vacuum cleaners to map out the environment and not scratch your walls or whatever. Um, but there are a few headsets. We'll talk a little bit later. Apple
Yeah.
are potentially using lidar in their system as
Hmm.
well. So we'll get to that. There are a couple of other flavors here that I wanted to talk to you about. So if you're like interested in AR stuff and you're like, hey, what's out? What's available? What can I purchase? Because I got money burning a hole in my pocket for some reason. The Nreal Air we talked about before is like a 200-inch, I'll say fixed to your head screen. AR glasses that you can pop out and plug them into a Steam Deck or your laptop, that type of thing, right? There's another one. The Mokid Max is another headset that's like that as well. And so there's a number of these companies now for around about like kind of $300 to $450 US dollars. You can get these like sporty looking 200-inch wearables, which just they look pretty neat. They're pretty small form factor, and when you can plug them into something, you get privacy, you get a huge screen. And I actually think that some of these selling points, which we'll talk about when we get to Apple, are going to be the use case for that individual who's like, I don't want to wear a VR headset. But when we get to that point, entertainment's going to be a really big hook. So just be aware. There are devices out there. My personal recommendation would be probably hold on to your money, wait a year and see where we are in a year's time. Because I think some of the big players are going to drop this year something that might change the game. So that is that. With that, let's swing from wearables into Rec Room wearables. They've done something quite admirable, and they've taken a welcome step towards increased inclusivity in their games. They added 6 types of hearing devices for those with hearing impairment as a free accessory gifted to players, which I thought was like a really nice update. In fact, my eldest daughter has a major notch in her hearing, which was really hard for me, having my firstborn, my first kid and stuff, and being an audiophile. Learning that my kids got like a hearing problem was like, oh, Jesus. It was like really hard because it's like you're not going to hear the world in the same way that I hear it. So this is a really nice gesture to see, because just like facial hair, which we've complained about before in Rec Room, like we griped about that on a previous podcast. When there's something about you that you see when you look in the mirror, whether it's a tattoo or a great big Rowdy beard, then it's nice to have that option in VR too. So that I think I just want to applaud Rec Room for that piece, but that's not all, right? And no, don't think legs yet. Legs are still in the oven. Legs are still in the oven. They are still cooking. We don't have legs yet, right? But they decided to sort us special kids out with noses, so people with like giant noses like me can feel right at home in Rec Room. No longer with a flat face. Now we can show our prominence in true full form. Thank you, Rec Room.
Amazing.
I love it.
Actually, the noses in Rec Room don't look too weird, which is nice, because I wondered if they'd look like that weird Minecraft character. I forget what they call them.
Yeah. Where it's like the tone is like different from the rest of the body.
Different than the nose, yeah.
The villagers,
like
I think. Villagers.
Yeah. I always call them Muppet noses. Like, it looks so different to the skin of the face. I love that. I really love the approach to the. Once again, we talked about that earlier. It's like, it's so cool seeing everybody like maturing, adding value to their ecosystems, and making sure that the players feel as welcome as possible, especially now that a lot of people are getting burned by shutdowns of games and networks. It's cool that we're at least seeing like a really cool counterbalance of the people that can actually do it are actually doing it. So
that's a really nice way to put it, Jose. I agree. Counterbalance. That's exactly, and that's what I was trying to do here. Is like, here's the stuff that's dying, but here's the stuff we're getting. Like, and that's how it feels right now. Yeah, day to day, right? So this is probably a good time for us to take a juncture over to Jose's big spot on today's podcast, which is about the Amusement Expo. I'll just give a little intro. So at the Las Vegas Convention Center, running from March 27th through 30th this year, Jose took his team out for a spot on the show floor at this huge conference and trade show. And with that, I know very little about the Amusement Expo. Jose, what's there to tell us and the audience?
Yeah, so the Amusement Expo International is one of the largest events that happen yearly in the United States for the attraction and amusement space, which is kind of the side of the industry that I dabble a lot in, which is the arcades, right? It's the people that, the commercial side, the entertainers, the businesses that really love the technology that we hold dear, and they want to make a profit out of it. They want to make a quick buck. The problem is that a lot of people don't know where to start. So these events tend to show you every aspect of it, from seminars to teach you, best practices of running an arcade, products, experiences, conversations with developers, conversations with platform vendors that could pretty much help you every step of the way. And we were there this year showcasing my company, Reboot Imagine, which is what I like to call the first true metaverse company, right? A lot of people call themselves, forward Web3, and they usually crypto and development and all that stuff. What we focus on is 100% adoption, right? Right now, everybody wants to get into VR, especially businesses. Everybody's focusing on creating amazing products and experiences. I for a living talk about VR, so there's a lot of people that are already doing that. The problem is adoption. We always get people interested in getting these amazing products, adopting them. They want to do the mixed reality, they want to do it all, but they always go to, okay, what do I get? What do I buy? it's unfortunate that the people that are answering the "what do I buy" are also selling a product. So you end up in a situation where somebody is going to be like, "Man, I'm going to put all of the value in, let's say, my game that I created,
Mm.
and the computer's only $1,000 plus another $1,000 for the headset. I'm just going to fluff up the cost of the hardware so I can make more money off my game." So you end up having a computer being sold.
Do you just for context? Do you
Yes,
mean like in I'm thinking about like a location-based experience. So you're like
correct.
saying, okay, I'm gonna have the headset, the game. You're buying the package from me, so you can show it
Yes,
off in your Dave and Buster's or something like that.
correct.
Okay,
So
and you were saying
a really good
the
example would be,
influences. Yeah, go on.
yeah, a good example would be, let's say you're starting an arcade and you see After the Fall and you're like, I want to build my own arcade setup and I'll have 4 players playing After the Fall at this really cool arena, and you don't know where to start. So you go on Google and you search, I want to start my own VR arcade. Now you find a company that is offering you a game that looks like After the Fall, that they charge you, let's say, $100,000,
Yeah,
and it's one game that looks like After the Fall for, let's say, Vive Focus 3s and a really good computer and a TV and a rug. So when you do the math, you're like, okay, a Focus 3 is about $1,300. A really good computer is about 800 to 1,000. The rug is probably another 5 grand, maybe if it's like really
the
high
the
end. Maybe
rug.
not.
Rug.
It's an
I'm being
Arabian
kind with
rug.
the rug.
Like,
I'm being
Arabian.
kind. I'm just being kind. It was probably a $500 rug, right? But at the
No,
end
no,
of
no.
the day,
Is this just a rug? Are we talking a rug like a liner
just
or
a
something
normal
smart
rug, a
about it?
little
Just a
rug
rug.
with little maybe markers so the headset knows where it is,
Okay,
right?
5,000.
So you end up seeing this product that's being sold for $100,000, probably more, and you're like, wait a minute, what's the value? And then the companies that are selling you this, they're like, oh, it looks pretty, the game is fun, gamification. When but if you know the industry, you know what you're doing. You could have
Yeah.
just bought a $800 computer. You could have bought the Focus 3s yourself, and
Buy
you
them all
could have
separate.
licensed $30 with Springboard, and now you get access to After the Fall. So now you can
Yeah.
do that entire experience for about 2 grand at best of initial investment, right? So that's the problem right now with commercial VR, with the location base, with the people that adopt these experiences to with intention to make money. They don't know where to start. They don't know where to begin. So that's where my company comes in. We are focused 100% in
selling it for
helping
50,000. Oh, no,
businesses.
okay.
100, no, but that's what I'm focused on. It's helping people that want to get into VR, adopt VR. The creators who are already creating amazing experiences, they don't have to oversell their hardware. They can focus on bringing value to the customers. So we started building open ecosystems. I call it the fan system, which stands for Free Agent Network. It is a hyper maxed out 5 year forward facing investment into hardware. We're talking about RTX 4090s, water cooled, i9, 6 gigahertz overclocked, water
Oh,
cooled.
so it doesn't have to
100
do with the fans.
and no, nothing to do with the fans. 128 gigs of DDR5 RAM, and they're all networked. So there's 6 computers of these, including a powerful 7th computer that is designed to be a server. So this server is a 32 core.
Jose,
What's up?
for a
Yes.
second, you've lost me.
Oh
So
yes.
I'm imagining your server rack, and you've got
Yes.
6+1,
Yes.
six
Hardware
plus one in
six plus
in the
one
rack. Okay,
computers. Yes.
what are they doing? What are they
So
each?
they're doing nothing but running high-end PCVR. Just
Okay, so
PCVR, PCVR. There's an access point, so you connect each headset to it. So right now, let's
all
say
right,
you want to do wireless VR streaming. Everybody has seen the tutorials. It's you get a computer with a wireless router and you stream through the router. I personally, as a technician, as an engineer, believe and know that routers were created way before wireless VR was a thing. So they're not designed for proper bitstream wireless casting. There's a reason why new technologies were invented off the fly, like low encoders for. A lot of people use it for. You guys use it, I think, for webcams, which is I forgot the name of it, but very low signal formats for webcams over the air.
sure.
All of that technology is subpar for VR streaming. And unfortunately, that's what everybody's using right now.
Mm.
Yeah.
We're rebuilding the way the PC VR is streamed over the internet from the ground up. So applications, let's say like virtual desktop, will be able to take advantage of these new wireless solutions and wireless access points to create a more reliable, hyper fidelity, forward facing realities of graphical technology, right? Nobody's going to want to stream at 1080p resolution on a 4K headset. And that's where kind of everybody's at right now. I'm working
So
with, yeah.
just gonna ask, like what the experience that I've had of location based so far
Mhm.
has been, well, going back a few years, right? Backpack PC with a headset,
Yeah.
or all in one headset with a frankly kind of disappointingly low fidelity experience, right? But networked, and sometimes the character to character network is
Not so
laggy,
good.
or
Yeah.
yeah, I would say the general impression I have of LBE in the space you operate hasn't been great. It certainly doesn't hold a candle to PC at home, PC VR at
Exactly.
home, and so getting there, I think is really quite important. And I am
Yes.
interested in your solution. I'm also interested in, what did you see industry wise um, at the Amusement Expo
Yeah.
new, maybe that wasn't, because this is kind of similar to that event. I forget the name of it now. Very similar Amusement Expo name in Florida that was
IAPA.
6 months ago. IAPA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this feels like the
100%.
Nevada version of that.
Correct.
What's changed in 6 months, in that
Yeah.
space? Did you see anything that was like new, or because we got the download on IAPA before, and I'm just curious, like in 2023, what are we seeing on that show floor?
A lot of maturing of the industry. A lot of people want to create products and experiences. We for example, we spoke about Eggscape at GDC. They were actually there. They were showcasing their efforts to expand into the arcade industry, being able to see actually a Quest Pro at an amusement and attractions event. I did mention this prior when we spoke
Yeah.
about IAPA, that there was a very distancing from Meta when it comes to approaching location-based entertainment. It looks like those grips have softened. I actually was blessed by having a very high-level tech at Meta stop by and look at our solutions, and that was actually where the conversations have really been at this event. Is people really want to get into VR. They want to embrace these amazing technologies. The problem is there's no one really going out of their way right now to teach people the proper ways of how to getting these technology off the ground, how to properly price for it, how to bring the quality assurance that we see in home consumer VR into arcades. It's unfortunate because if you know a little bit about the VR industry, I always recommend people to go to these events, because you will immediately realize that businessmen are businessmen. They're not technicians. They don't really care about the tech. So once they figure out a way to, let's say, get a headset to stream, which is a computer with a router, they're going to run with it. And they're going to
Yeah.
focus more on how do I sell this experience
Than
instead of
optimizing the actual
Exactly.
foundation solution, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where we're at.
And like the point you mentioned as well, there's quite a bit of, they could actually, if they knew to do that, if they knew to look under the hood, they could succeed in selling more, because you can, on a smaller price point, you can actually have a larger margin. So
Yes.
and then do more volume. So it actually makes sense in the end, to put your business that way. I have a question for you though,
Yes.
because we didn't talk on this much, but I know you were I think equally as impressed as I was with Eggscape.
Yes.
Adam, last time we had a fun little jaunt on the podcast, and she gave me a bit of a stab in the side. She's like, "You didn't tell me that that
Like,
was
it would've been
that was
fun.
on the show floor.
Yeah.
That would have been a fun thing to play." Yeah. How did you find Eggscape when you played it? Did you?
I loved it. So one of the things that took me by surprise getting to play Escape again at Amusement Expo was that they were showcasing the Quest Pros. That was for me, like, honestly, it shattered my reality and created new optimism for the future of LBE in general, because they were actually there showcasing something that they didn't have much at GDC, which was dedicated outside of the game spatial anchors, right? So anybody who tried the experience at GDC, I think you mentioned this, but there was a desynchronization of what you were seeing with the graphics. I experienced that at GDC where I felt like the map was rendering outside of where it was supposed to be, making like a weird blurred 3D effect. And that was because
there was some visual aberration, but I wouldn't call it like that. Like if you're talking about the anchoring system, so again, just to paint people who didn't catch up with the last podcast, there was a diorama, a physical diorama where they had the name of the game, multi-tiered kind of you can think of boxes like set into the corner of a room space, and the game would stick to those anchors to then lay out virtual characters over that scene. For me, that didn't drift or anything. Is that what you're describing? Is
mine was drifting. Mine was drifting a lot in my experience. At the GDC, I didn't really care for it because I was having fun. But it was definitely visually there. And that I didn't notice at Amusement Expo. There was better lighting conditions. I did speak to them about that and about quality assuring around it, which they were very excited about, and I'll have more to talk about that in the future. But there was just a lot of excitement. I think mixed reality makes a lot of sense for arcades, and just that's the sad, exciting approach that I go to these events is, man, people really want to get into VR. They want to get into VR. Arcades want to get into VR. If you have a way to go into these arcades and seeing the current technology, there's a lot of opportunity right now. I was certainly enamored with the locally networked Quest Pros in that demo. Like I wasn't expecting it, and it was like, oh right, we're now in a booth with like 3 or 4 Quest Pros, and we're playing a game together, and it's in like augmented reality, and it's high definition, and it's anchored, and they've got a beautiful construct, and that to me was just starting to flip switches in my brain of like what else is possible. So that was really, really cool. Meta was there. I think that's one thing I can highlight is Meta was at Amusement Expo, which was definitely
have a booth then?
No, they had, but there was presence there, which was very exciting to me. It's not something I've seen in this industry. The conversations that I had with the technical, man, I want to talk about that. I wish I could say the name, but I don't think I got permission for that. But the person I was talking to was actually behind the scenes at that viral Mark Zuckerberg MMA video. That's how high up this guy is in the technical side of it all. Cool. But the conversations that I was having with this gentleman was about the future of co-spatial technologies with the Quest Pro. They highlighted immediately that they heard my complaints publicly and on the podcast here. So if they're listening, I'm correcting myself. There is a real awareness from them when it comes to wireless 6E and connectivity for how they perform. There is reason for why they haven't made this public or released 6E, and it's mostly related to what you just described, co-location. They're really optimizing the ability for Quest Pros to live around each other. With that, there are also things that I got really right that they're not ready to talk about yet, which is if you create a field or an environment with specific devices to perform really well around each other, which is wireless, that will mean that nothing else will work around that environment well.
Yep.
So they are.
I told you, cone of silence. I said that on the other cone of silence. I knew it.
It's a technology forced way of doing that. So I am now sad that we were going to see. This is the beginning of maybe XR labs, right? We're going to see a bunch of Quest Pros in a really cool school setting, environment settings, university setting, and they're going to perform amazingly well. They're going to have co-spatial technologies. The sad reality is only Quest Pros will be in that environment. I don't really see this performing well with other headsets. I don't see them opening up this technology for that integration.
Well, hey, if you've got if you've figured out a way to engineer and make something work, and it becomes a unique selling point for you, then fair enough, defend it. But that was exactly the idea of the yacht and saying, hey, I can have internet and my people around me can't. I mean, this whole idea of that That cone of silence is interesting. It's heartening, however, to hear that might be a future for us, where location-based experiences or collaborative work with Quest Pros could work. It just means that the technology came out, headset was there, but the software stack wasn't quite ready yet.
Yeah.
And so it needs some time to mature. And at the new lower price,
Yeah.
that's actually good news for me, because
Yeah.
I didn't want to hop on it when it first came out. If it keeps coming down in price and the software keeps improving, that's normal.
$50
technology,
you know?
right?
For
Yeah, 50
what
bucks is not so bad.
This is 100% just me assuming and guesstimating based on what they were saying, but I think the Quest Pro will drop even more in price based on the further away the window of support for these disruptive technologies like co-location happen. The software wasn't there at all. The wireless, for what I understand, is all the engineering work went into the controllers when it comes to the wireless capabilities, because the controller had to be shipped with it. So they focus all resources on the controller side, and now they're kind of focusing on the actual Quest Pro. There's a lot of wireless tools. There's a lot of capabilities that I am not allowed to talk about, but they're there. There's a lot of stuff. It's so weird, because I was expressing that to them. I was like, why would you even have this conversation with me? Because now I went from loving the Quest Pro to hating it to now looking forward to that version of the Quest Pro that I initially wanted and loved, and now I'm realizing that it might come sooner, hopefully not so later, but it also might deliver more. I'm in a weird mental place right now when it comes to the Quest Pro, because I don't know what to believe or what to think. But the person that was talking to me had no intention to lie to me, especially based on what we're talking about. So we'll see, honestly.
We did get a question in about, the stuff that you're doing from Sampler 19, sort of a summary of what you're working on. But they asked, so basically, the tech you described earlier is going to stream over the internet to LBE locations? ?
So what we're building is a powerful arcade in a box, right? So think of what you do at home, wirelessly streaming from a computer to a router, but a much larger, cohesive, quality assured level. Each computer does not stream through the network. They stream off the computer using firmware, special wireless cards that stream directly to the headset. So each computer also hosts as a streaming device to the headset, allowing you to only use the router to do what a router does best, networking, which is creating and handling the spatial anchoring, the mixed reality anchoring, the ability to position the account for the players in the space, giving you zero latency, a sandbox VR type of experience for $40,000. A sandbox VR, from a technical perspective, starts at about $180,000. I think
that's cheap.
Zero latency, or the Void, that's very famous back in the day. Those were about $315,000 investments to get 6 players.
I'm not surprised. I am absolutely not surprised, given the amount of hardware and headsets and tracking devices and just the logistics of the setup.
That's where the heartbreaking comes in, because when you actually do that, Zim, it's actually not that much. It's only it's actually $20,000. The rest is software. What killed the Void was nothing with the technology. It was the literal Star Wars IP. It was the licensing.
I'm also thinking, I'm thinking, Rowdy, that we should start selling FReality branded Arabian rugs. I think it's a market for us. I think we do very well.
$5,000. I'll do it for $4,000.
Man. We'll make it vibrate under it.
What a deal!
It'll be awesome.
No, sounds good.
Got one here.
That's great as well.
We're gonna have
body to get rid of,
And I'll say this: I'm really, I'm mostly a tech. I'm the quote unquote CEO, right? So I don't really talk about the potentials of value in business and all that. But we will have what I can talk about the fan system is I'm working with Impact Reality, which is Skiva Industry, Heart of Gold, Eric Masher, VR Jasmine. They started an amazing company focusing on media and relationships for the VR. So we have last weekend I actually rented out a production studio, and these guys showed up with fog machines, and we had Team Infinite here, and there is a crazy production video that's going to come out that's going to showcase all the value. And when all that stuff comes out, please, keep an eye out. I'll share with you guys, and that will probably explain everything much better than I can. And man, there's somebody I'm working with that I want to mention so badly, but I can't yet, because there is
All right.
there is very high level legal stuff happening to make sure that I can talk about this openly. But I'm working with an absolute rock star in VR. I call it, it's like, I think of it as like, imagine like being like, I don't know, like Microsoft and bringing in like, I can't believe, forgot his name. I can't believe that, but no, that was crazy when it happened. But what's Wozniak? Like Wozniak's
Wozniak.
Imagine Microsoft bringing Wozniak on board. That would have gutted Apple in a way that we have never seen.
Like
and
that.
I have a similar announcement like that coming for my company. It's crazy. I'm really excited, and I'll talk more about it in the hopefully next podcast.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
Well, that does sound exciting, and
yeah.
we look forward to hearing it. And if
It's
Jose
me.
hasn't
No.
frustrated you enough, then I'm going to frustrate you even more, because we're going to talk about Apple's upcoming mixed reality headset. Thank you, Jose, for the cross section on what went down in Vegas. What goes down in Vegas usually stays in Vegas, except for when Jose is around. Then he can tell us what goes on.
I don't sign the NDAs.
Exactly. All right. Well, there's been a lot of buzz this week, and here's a quick catch up. First off, I'm going to be talking about Apple's VR and AR headset, not the Apple Glasses concept, which we've heard about, which is AR only and is potentially been kicked down the road to another year. So probably not coming in 2023 for the slim form factor AR glasses that will hopefully blow our socks off at some point in the future. No, this is the VR AR headset, much closer akin to like the Quest Pro, but Apple's revision of that. So enough foreplay here. Let's show him the Marcus Kane renders. He's the same guy we saw render the Quest Pro, and he's done excellent work in the past. I like this even better. So this is no different. His mock-ups look sleek, stylish, and frankly realistic, like something you can actually see Apple producing. The facial interface itself looks like the perforated cushion on the Apple AirPod Max headphones. If you remember what that looked like, this kind of like a soft, spongy looking material, their flagship headphone. And the headset, it's just super slim, sleek, and vented for heat dissipation. So again, these are things that when it comes to manufacturing real hardware are important, especially if you're trying to make it look svelte and, be purchased by your usual Apple fans, I'll call them. The images also sport a battery accessory, which could be slung like a carrier backpack with a magnetically attached battery pack. So much like the Apple Watch Puck, that it would attach to the headband and actually deliver power to the headset. So even if the headset was only 2 or 3 hours battery life, this would give you an extra punch beyond that. I do like to think that Tim Cook, Apple CEO, is sitting in a boardroom somewhere, scrolling over Marcus's Twitter account going, "You little fecker," and looking at these images, because they were pretty damn spot on with the Quest Pro and those leaks. And
did you send me those images? Because I don't see them in the links.
Hold on. Okay, I'll just make double sure. I thought I did.
I do like these renders because I don't know how we got the blue design before that everyone's probably seen a million times, but white, I mean, that's Apple's trademark. So to me, I feel like these are going to be much closer to what it's actually going to look like. So I'm super excited for that.
Rowdy, it's sorry, I have them in a funny order. It's the third one. It's under Apple. It's a link to Marcus Kane's Twitter.
Oh, okay.
I actually, when I saw the white, funny enough, I felt the complete opposite for that reason, because I feel like I was thinking the same thing, like, because Apple, that's their iconic color. But I feel like maybe like a white band, so that's kind of where I'm at, because like, the white band almost makes sense, but the blue one made more sense because, stains and sweat. But this headset is not designed for that at all. It looks like it's more comfort based. So now I'm like, okay, maybe it is the white strap.
Is it like a nylon-y or like what? It's hard to tell. Like the seatbelt material strap. At least it looks like in the renders, which I'm kind of like, I don't know. Is that really that comfortable? Because those get, at least for the Quest, I have a lot of hair and it was slippery as heck. And I was like, so I had to replace that thing ASAP. Otherwise, it just falls off my face. But it's a lighter. It's not. Quest is heavy versus the Apple headset, which is going to be more.
Exactly. So there's some plays here. I would also say that if you think about the Apple Watch and the different bands that were available, I can imagine similar to your Quest 2 and with an easier swapping experience that the Apple MR AR headset will actually have interchangeable bands. What you can see in the renders is like a rigidity almost down what I'll call the stereo audio part on the headband. So almost like you were wearing sunglasses, and beyond that part, it's cloth. So the purpose of that with this render is the idea that you have a soft back. So you could put your head against the seat in an airplane or something like that. You can also fold these up just like a pair of sunglasses, and the cloth part just kind of tucks nicely between them, between the kind of more rigid sides. So the design looks great. This idea of the sling or the extra accessory for the battery pack. Don't know if I'm sold on that yet from kind of thinking of Apple's design eye, but it's probably the closest that you can get before imagining what Apple actually has in mind.
Yeah, that was what about.
These
are concepts, like concept design by someone who likes Apple, I guess, or something. But this is not how the device will actually look, right? We have no idea about
that. There is no official release. This is not an exclusive.
I was already thinking
Apple
like I didn't see
Apple
come out with this.
Zim pulls out the headset.
Like
no, so and this is where we were trying to go with the first link in my list, Rowdy, which is Apple's WWDC event.
Right.
So this is the Worldwide Developers Conference, June 5th. It's touted that we might see this first on June 5th, just 2 months away. There are rumors that the go-ahead on the product was pushed by senior execs like Tim Cook, but wasn't yet backed by the design team in terms of confidence that it's ready to ship, which is a kind of a realistic thing. Now, we've been waiting many years now for an Apple product to launch in the VR AR market. Their AR headset, again, has been touted as being pushed out to another year. But I think it's kind of time for them to get into the game, particularly with Meta jumping into a similar space that, honestly, I think Apple's been designing towards for many years. So in terms of form and functionality, this headset is expected to be part of the closed, Apple ecosystem, work a bit like a Meta Quest Pro, inside-out tracked, and not a device that you'd wear all day long. Tim Cook has spoken in the past about his, Apple's ultimate goal, which is really AR. And their AR kit has been circling now for 6 years, which was first unveiled at WWDC in 2017. That's a very similar timeline between the PSVR 1 and PSVR 2. There was a 6-year gap there as well. So I'll just give you a little quote from a recent GQ UK interview that they had with Tim, which I thought was a really good read, very in depth. If you're an Apple person or a shareholder like me, very interesting to read and hear from the company. This is the kind of AR piece that I'll just kind of pull out. So if you think about the technology itself with augmented reality, just to take one side of the AR VR piece, the idea that you could overlay the physical world with things from the digital world could greatly enhance people's communication, people's connection. It could empower people to achieve things they couldn't achieve before. And if it could accelerate creativity, if it could just help you do things that you do all day long, and you didn't really think about doing them in a different way. So for me, one of the things that I saw very, very recently was someone was mocking up an AR app. It was cooking, and it showed you, it was a cookie sheet where you'd place the various cookies, how much you'd need of the various kind of components. So if you were wearing, that's again painting where Apple's kind of going, right? And we've talked before about like the whole Apple Maps and things like that. I want to tell you a little bit more about this VR AR headset though, before we kind of throw it out into the team there. So tech-wise, this thing is meant to boast 4,000 by 4,000 pixels per eye, so 4K per eye, whereas the PSVR 2, which has a 4K resolution, in air quotes, is 2000 by 2040 per eye. So again, when you're thinking about that, that's a quarter of the resolution, not half. Vive Pro 2 has about 2500 by 2500 per eye. That's one of the higher density resolutions out there. If they include LiDAR scanning into this as well to quickly measure space accurately. This headset could remain compact, accurately tethered. Focus areas for the headset are expected to be a couple of things: entertainment, such as watching TV or movies; social, such as social interactions or business meetings; and gaming, but not the hardcore stuff you and I are used to. Apple's not really known for that. So I want to give a few predictions as to what we think the VR and AR headset is going to make, and then I'll open to the team for theirs. So first off, I think entertainment is probably the main use case here. Kind of similar to the way the big screen is going with their big screen beyond in pivoting towards entertainment. One of the main use cases here is to bring the fleet of capabilities from like Apple TV and their entertainment closet to a cinema experience to individuals. You could sell their Apple One, which is kind of an all-in-one, TV and entertainment package to people. So that's the entertainment side. But what do you guys think about that? Like, would you wear a headset to watch a movie, or are you in a situation, Rowdy? You're kind of like me, right? And Adam, you too. If you got someone to watch a headset with to your side, you're probably not going to buy $2,000-$3,000 headsets or whatever it ends up costing, right? So, is it still a useful purpose for a headset that's mixed reality for you to be entertained, in your living room or when you're on a business trip, that type of thing?
I think, at least for me, if I had more Apple products, I think what would interest me most is being able to, transfer, go from my iPhone to my Mac to this headset. But I'm like Android Windows person, so this would be kind of just a solo thing for me. But I do think that I don't think that a lot of people are going to be getting their hands on this. I think it's going to be more like what the Quest Pro intended, on just like sort of like a polished dev kit. I want to say, like, here's a thing. Developers, go make some cool stuff. Because I read, again, these are all rumors. Nothing's true or confirmed yet, but there might be limiting the amount that's sold per Apple store. So it's not going to be like, lines of people going up to get an iPhone unless you actually plan on making something for the ecosystem. So if I were an Apple user, I could see myself definitely wanting to get one once the more consumer version, whatever that's going to be, is out. But I just don't have enough of the ecosystem to really make it worth it just to buy it to watch movies. I mean, I've got other headsets for that also do gaming, which is sort of more of my thing. So I don't know. That's just my opinion.
For me, I'm totally not into the Apple ecosystem at all. So I don't have a single Apple device. I think. I mean, my wife has a MacBook and an iPhone, but I don't. But the thing is, from an entertainment perspective, I don't think I would buy a device to watch movies like that. Mostly also because I'm familiar with Apple prices. You know how big a TV that you can buy if you have $3,000 to spend? You can buy a pretty big TV. And then the thing is, of course, Apple has this.
And if you got 60,000, Rowdy, you can go even.
Yeah, you can buy a cinema theater. But the thing is, Apple has this, or at least has this reputation of bringing out devices that are revolutionary, right? They change the way that you think about technology. Like back when the iPhone came out, there's this very famous talk from I think the Nokia president or like the chief of whatever, where it says like a $500 phone. We'll talk in a year from now when everybody's having Nokias because they brought out like a $50 smartphone or whatever they called it like that. And of course, we all know what happened is that Nokia pretty much went bust, and Apple iPhones are everywhere. So they have this kind of thing where they generate technology for a need that you don't know that you have yet, which I think is what makes Apple so successful. Of course, they had a visionary lead there. I don't know Tim Cook has been doing really well, but I don't know if he has that same kind of visionary kind of pushing through in order to achieve that. But I mean, I would welcome a surprise like that. I'm not convinced yet that we're going to see it. With Apple, it's always a little bit like believing. I'll believe it when I see it. But for entertainment specifically, I don't think that I would, at this moment at least, unless they generate the need for it, I don't think I would need it. I'm looking more at a device for like they did with the iPhone, something that is productivity aimed, something that I need in order to achieve a higher level of productivity, increase my efficiency. That is more what I'm looking at, rather than pure entertainment.
a really interesting selling point there, and hinging off of something Adam said, I think would be an accessory that goes well with a MacBook. You know, something that would, you've got the one screen, but you're always traveling. Oh, but hey, now you can just rock up, drop your laptop, plug this thing in, and you've got a whole host of displays, right? Like it just changes what you need to carry and how productive you can be in a coffee shop, for example. You've also got the privacy element that's there. Um, Another aspect of this that's quite interesting, and I will just quickly say hi to Marcus, who's in chat, who did the renders, because I think they're your best renders yet. So thanks for coming along.
Beautiful.
They really are. Even the positioning of the images, and like, it feels very Apple to me. But the other thing that I think is again, that I'll just set out there as a prediction is social. I do think, and this is something that Tim's spoken about before, is, and Rowdy, you're talking about kind of work and collaboration, right? But how also like families stay close from a distance, and supporting that need that we almost saw highlighted during lockdown, which is how do you at distance feel presence with one another?
I think that comes with adaptation of technology. You don't generate a disruptive technology immediately like that. I think you need to have something else before, because for example, when the iPhone came out, I think it took maybe another 10 years before my parents considered like getting an iPhone. You know, they're from a different generation. And of course, I understand that now people are more aware of these kind of technologies, but I still think that something like that needs to be baked in before, like, you know, you see like a very big.
I fully agree with that, Rowdy. I feel and you said it yourself, that they got signed off, but the designers themselves are not confident in the release of it.
Speculation,
what Apple does really well is they don't solve problems that have been solved already. They introduce a new type of problem with an immediate solution. we keep mentioning entertainment, and we talk about entertainment as if all we keep thinking is VR movies or non-VR movies.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of disruptional technologies right now that are being introduced in real time that the mass public is now learning about, which is AI-based re-rendering or adjustments in frames.
Oh, you're going to the future here. You're like,
well, we call it future. What if that's what's really is going to get introduced?
What
with
if it's
this
around
headset?
the corner?
What if it's around the corner?
It's already being done.
What's up?
It's already being done.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. We already have spatial casting for like basketball. What happens if this headset gets introduced with, we're pairing this with front court seats to every single NBA event, and now you're seeing the games as if you were there. You can walk around.
That. Mm-hmm. Right? Like Meta tried that, but what I'm hearing from you is, for example, if they did some kind of AI-based interpolation into my headset, and I could watch The Matrix, but I can look around. You know what I mean? Like,
that's more than likely what they're looking
at. Something along that line in real time. I wouldn't think that the grunt would be there in the processor, even if they are running like an M2 or something.
It's the phone. It's going to be the phone. That's where the device comes from. I'll tell you this. The reason this device, my strongest speculation, what the industry behind the scenes truly believes, and you can talk to a lot of people, probably even Marcus, about the rendering, the conversations behind the scenes, is it's been confirmed, and you mentioned it before, Apple has had an AR kit for almost 6 years now.
Yeah.
There is hardware that can do AR and mixed reality really well that's not Apple made. The XR3, for example, one of the biggest subscribers and buyers of the XR3 is Apple. I think that now that the hardware and the software has matured enough that it doesn't make sense for developers to be getting or receiving behind the scenes XR3s, because that's going to start creating the opportunity for developers to port this over to other hardware easily. So in order to get a quick headset out of the way, that's why we're only seeing a half measure step. Right now, a lot of industry people are like, this might hurt Apple, but
that's
Apple
exactly
must,
where I'm feeling.
Yeah, Apple must release this because Meta has every intention of dominating the XR ecospace.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and Varjo is like right there, kind of focusing on the corporate commercial side of the industry. They're starting to sell headsets now on GameStop. People are starting to really think about visual fidelity. The Deckard is around the corner. There is puck-based technology is now the conversation everywhere behind the scenes, which is little devices that can power up a headset. We don't know if this additional battery pack is really just a battery. We don't know if it's processing something behind the scenes or if it has a
totally
dedicated.
Do that. Yeah. I mean, I do fear about the like magnetic nature of what we've seen mocked up, but as a person who's watched Apple closely for years and really believed a lot of the original Jobs culture that was there and like where they've gone, I'm waiting for Apple to wow me once again. I really am. And I feel like where Apple is, like many companies coming into 2023, like what you said there, Jose, I feel like they're pushed into a corner where they need to get this out, to Adam's point, into dev hands so that their current capabilities, that software stack, can be worked on. Because right now,
publicly,
people are working on the people are working on the Meta headset, right? On software for that. They're working on PSVR 2. Now that's not a competitor probably for Apple's product, but they're not working at least out in the open, right? Maybe it's first party stuff, but they need to let the dog out, so to speak. And so
disagree a little bit with both you and Jose on this. And the reason, I mean, I agree that I think that would be a right strategy, but I don't agree that with how that's Apple way of doing things. I think
it's not Apple's way of doing it. I think they're pushed in a corner. I think they're stuck in a tough spot, and they're going to have to.
I don't agree with that part. I don't agree with that part because Apple typically joins the scene, I think, fairly late.
Yeah,
they have a reputation of doing that,
for sure.
Joining a scene very late, but then coming up with something that nobody has done before. And I think that's where their strength is, that they don't jump on early adoption. They go immediately for mass adoption. And when they feel that the time is right for mass adoption, that is when they come out with a device that is aimed at a general public.
That's what Apple's known for, right? Yeah. That is, but I'm asking the same question a lot of Apple fans will, is does Apple still have it? Like, will they wow us when this thing lands?
Because that's what I don't know.
It's been too long. It's been too long in the closet. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have the confidence.
I'm also not convinced that we're going to see a headset yet. I'm not convinced of it.
I think what's going to get introduced will be 100% for developers. It will be shopped as a headset, but it will be considered the same as the Apple Watch. It will be.
When have they had done that though? When have they ever done? Apple Watch didn't come out that way.
The Apple Watch,
consumers.
The Apple Watch was released to consumers with a bare bones library that developers didn't like. The battery wasn't there. The reviews were abysmal for it.
Version 1 was not great.
We're going to see the same exact thing for this device. I know for a fact that the XR3 is being used by Apple developers behind the scenes. In fact, we have seen a lot of cool mixed reality. We have spoken a few of them that are actually Apple products. It's just there's no hardware yet to back that up with. I think that they are actually forced into a corner of the industry. Before, cell phone apps weren't a thing when Apple really kicked off the doors when it came to these ecosystems. Computers, they were the first always, and that's the reason why we always expect them to come last. But we're talking about disruptional technology that for the first time is moving way faster than I think Apple can do their traditional, we're going to come in later on when everything is figured out, because once again, mixed reality is being developed on. They have an AR kit that is kind of running without a house right now.
Yes, exactly.
They need to give people a house.
Rowdy, you were just flashing on screen something that I wanted to talk about, because the teasing images from WWDC have caused a few people to look at them and say, hey, that looks like a Fresnel lens, right? And so there's another one, the one Rowdy's got up right now, which was on their special event for people who wanted to attend in person, that shows a stack of rings. And I've got to ask, is that Apple's campus building as it's clearly supposed to allude?
That's what I thought.
Or is that a cute pancake lens stack that is in there that's like, oh, guess what, guys? We've evolved. This is our lens stack, and we were tricking you that it's not just Apple Campus.
Nah, I think it's Apple Campus.
Either way, I'm drizzling maple syrup on either of them. But They
See,
both
that
look really
was a
cool,
very
and they are
aggressively
teasers.
Canadian statement. I'm going to dribble maple syrup all over it. You earned that.
Dude, I've done that. I did that once where my Rift got maple syrup all over it because my wife brought like maple syrup and I shook the bottle and the cap wasn't tight. And oh,
Too
man,
aggressive.
So close
Too
to anywhere,
aggressive.
anything food related. Like, how does that even happen?
That's amazing.
You can
That's just the
order
way we-
food for Sim while he's streaming. That's how it happens.
That's how it happens. All right, exactly. So the other thing I was going to say, and this is a weird chart. It's the marriage chart I was going to put up, Rowdy, which is.
I thought that was a
when I was
mistake that you
thinking-
sent me, but okay.
No, yeah, you're like shit. He's having some trouble here. No, it's a chart that shows a very heavily declining ratio of people who are getting married.
Right.
And it
I
just
thought
shows
this was a
the kind of,
hint. Like seriously, it's like, you know.
complete
It's the
drop off.
rollout.
So
It's the rollout.
when I was looking at like, okay, the use case of entertainment for an individual as opposed to entertainment for a couple or a family or a bunch of people in a house, right? Like, what would that target market look like? And this is just kind of a little bit of support. Again, we talked about stats earlier, right? You can throw stats for anything. And this is really just saying that people aren't getting hitched as much. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean people aren't cohabiting or whatever, but are there more single people out there to buy a product that's geared at an individual, right? An individual in a house who needs to be entertained kind of thing. And I think there are, but that was just to kind of back up the idea about the entertainment side. Social, we've talked about. One that I wanted to talk about to Adam's point about the old grungy headset that maybe didn't look like the right place. And like what we saw with the earlier render that Jose pointed out, the previous one, which was more like plasticky, right? That kind of rubber look is fitness. I do think Apple will go after the replace your gym approach. In other words, try to get people to cancel their gym membership, like add that to the value proposition for this kind of headset. Lightweight, you can just put it on no matter where you are, you've got your gym with you, because those things sell subscriptions. There's quite a bit of money in that. And I think it's a really easy sell. It's already been proven. It's a proven use case. Is that enough for Apple though? You know, do you guys foresee, does Apple today do any, I know we're all non-Apple people. So this is like, I used to have, there's an iPad in front of me, but have any of you seen Apple really push hard into fitness in the past?
Their
I'm not
Health
talking-
Plus, their apps, their app ecosystem is 100% designed. Their Apple
Yeah.
Watch is 100% designed for fitness. Their
Watch,
new,
yes.
yeah. I really think that the fitness component of Apple is going to be the watch. I don't see whatever headset releases, the Apple Watch is going to be a really big factor into it. I think that the goal is, as you were mentioning, I think that's the reason why the designers are not comfortable with this yet. This headset won't be able to deliver the experiences that we want Apple to deliver, but they have to start
Right.
somewhere. We're going
Right.
to it's probably going to be tethered to that cable at all times. You will be doing some meditative apps. They're going to have some exercise apps, but their goal,
No way.
Yeah.
No way. Tethered. Do you think there's going to be
It's tethered.
like tethered to your phone in your pocket or something?
I will bet that it's tethered. I think that the battery, that the
You bet a
headset-
hamburger?
I'm betting a hamburger on it. It's going to be a lot
All
to the XR Elite where it carries some
I'll go the other side.
charge. The XR Elite carries some charge only for hot swapping the battery.
Yeah.
I think that we're probably going to see something similar to the Apple device. The processing, the batteries are not there yet. In fact, if you look at battery sizes, although they're iPhones, they have gotten smaller.
Yeah.
They haven't
Sure.
gotten larger. They're all about optimizing what you can
There's
do.
a reason for that, right? That's optimizing to the user experience and how they're actually
Mhm.
used, because the amount of metrics after they got beaten up in the early thousands on the whole battery life lies and deceit and treachery, they have had such great statistics that you can run on your iPhone in terms of its
Yep.
battery life. And you know that they're gathering probably more than that, but like that over time tells you where you need to be for
Yeah.
your device to optimize, because you want every gram you can get out of that phone or that watch or that headset, you're going to take out, because you want to optimize that point. And that's why I think that they're going to end up with a headset that lasts 2 to 3 hours. And like Marcus's, his imagination has brought us to, I really think that's going to be external. I would very much doubt that there would be a permanent tether. I do, however,
I hope not.
I do, however, think that it would be very cool to have, like those AR glasses we were talking about a little bit earlier, an optional tether should you want to connect it to your laptop.
Yeah.
But knowing Apple, and again, hinging back, God, we got so many crossovers in this podcast today. Going back to your wireless networking point, if they can get the confidence between the laptop and the headset, or your phone and the headset, to do whatever you want, do a paper, have a virtual keyboard in a shop, check your family photos, any of that stuff, they'd probably do it wireless, because that's what people want. People don't want to carry another cable around. They don't want
I
extra access.
really don't think it's going to be wireless. I want it. I feel like it's going to be I mean, it's going to be tethered to an iPhone, an iPad. There's the iPad. Like, Apple didn't fight the USB-C stuff in the UK, which they fought out for a while. They dropped that. There's connections, there's bandwidth limitations. They're moving all of their hardware away from Intel. There's just so much processing and investments in hardware design, and also the realities. If Apple, if some company was able to, say, make a very lightweight wireless headset, it would have existed. There's a reason, even all the way down to the big screen, which is the most technical achievement you can do right now in supply chain for VR headsets. Even that is wired. It's you're not going to be able to fit a battery at that kind of small form factor. Also, Apple is not going to entertain. Well, maybe, right? Think about it.
Maybe that's where the disruptive thing comes in, right? Because that's the thing again.
Tech.
That's
be battery tech.
Yeah.
Do you think Apple's going to be comfortable having a conversation of putting batteries in people's faces? Because remember, it's yarn on the back. So even
I'm not saying that.
Yarn behind your head are scared.
A yarn-based headset. Wow. Okay. I'm not.
What I'm saying is, like you said before, like, Apple comes up with solutions often to problems that we don't know that we have, and
yes,
maybe they're gonna put something like that forward that drives forward a solution for that. I don't know. I mean,
that'll be amazing. I still don't feel comfortable with batteries in my near my eyes.
If they came out, I'm with you there. But if they came out with, I think it's unavoidable in the technology right now. I just don't think they can get away from that. And I expect it to be an all-in-one headset. But I think what you're envisaging is something that the battery is not part of what you're wearing on your head, and it's instead somewhere else that's safe.
And in fact, I would say that puck, and that's going to be the magic. It's the battery. It's going to do more than just being a battery. I think it might have that little puck device, might have a powerful streaming assistant for wireless. Maybe something.
Again,
but
smart to be away from your head.
Yeah,
smart to be away from
it's just the technology, the health ratings, the hazards. To put a battery near your eyes, it's just too risky right now. Phones can't even be trusted with going over a certain wattage for charging. Apple just wouldn't take those risks, but they need to release a headset, so
they might. Yeah, they might. Okay, so one last little prediction, because I know we've been going on. The gaming side. Okay, so I recently was playing a game which I've talked about before, Smash Tanks, which is basically a 3v3 kind of AR little battler that you run, and it's frankly awkward on a tablet or a phone. It just is, and you really want that to be something that you view through headset. However, that's not the awesome use case. I think Apple and Niantic should partner up if they don't already have this deal sorted. All they need is Pokemon, really. All they need is Pokemon. That would be enough for them just to say, gaming, tick. Like, if they put a new Pokemon Go equivalent game in AR, completely AR, only playable with this headset, for example, I think it would do something really interesting. I think it would put shoes on the street, so people would be out and walking around and doing these devices like they did, like with the explosion we saw that summer with Pokemon Go, where people were out in droves, and you're like, what are all these nerds doing? And do you remember the original iPod earbuds appearing on like trains and buses and class and stuff? Same deal, right? It would sell itself, because you start to see the in-crowd having it, and you're like, and you get this like mirror neuron thing that says, I want it, I need it, and you start to convince yourself that you need to be part of the in-crowd. So I think that's a trick that they could definitely play and should play.
I mean, as far as gaming goes, I can definitely see that, because I can't imagine you're going to see maybe even something like Supernatural, on it. I think it's the game side of it is going to be more like mobile, and not Quest mobile even, but just like phone mobile, but in a headset. Yeah, I mean, maybe not that bad.
Cool,
I feel like that
does
would
sound
be
cool.
I feel like their gaming side might be more on the AR than the VR, honestly. So mentioning Pokemon Go, I'm like, I could totally see them doing something like that, like stuff that somehow enhancing cell phone games to look better with the headset. I think somehow, because like people are still really addicted to their the games on the phone, but
it's got to be this. It's got to be Pokemon. It's got to be Yu-Gi-Oh. It's got to be Angry Birds since they took it off, and of course Age of Empires. Do those 4 and I'm in.
That sounds amazing. That's why I keep pushing hard on the idea of tethered, because I see mobile games becoming the most valuable mobile platform. You connect that to like an iPad, and the iPad has a QR code now that the headset knows and can see that QR code, and now the game gets layered on top of it, and it's going to create very precise augmented reality. It just, from a development and implementation standpoint, everything that I imagine Apple doing just seems almost in like what we expect from Apple. I can't see them deliver this on a wireless at all.
Yeah, and the thing for me about Apple is, the last thing I'll say is just, it's been so long. Like with my favorite band Tool, which Rowdy will know. It's been so long, it's hard to keep the faith, and I hope they dazzle us when whatever they drop next. If it's VR AR, I hope they come out the gates absolutely guns blazing. I don't want to see a half-assed Apple product. I want to see an Apple product. You know what I mean? So.
The thing is always, if you set your expectations low, then you're never disappointed.
See,
that's true.
That's what I'm saying. Everything's awful. Surprise me.
Would a wireless? I guess that's my question, and maybe that's why I never understood those questions about Apple conversations. Would a wired Apple, like powerful wired Apple headset, be considered a half step?
It's got to be cool. Is a wired headset cool?
I think we can keep on speculating about it, but like,
yeah. We've done this for so much. We've actually held off.
You know how many podcasts we've had on Apple releasing their next MR or VR headset? I think this is number 4 or something.
I'm going to look so
a heavyweight one. Yeah, I think you're right. And the thing is, like, are we expecting it this year? Rumors certainly seem that way, but I'll say they feckin' seemed it before as well. So the fact that it didn't come out in 2020 is still shocking to me to this day. Like, we didn't get it back then. The AT 2020, I think, is what it was.
Tim Cook is going to show up with like the iconic Steve Jobs glasses, and he's going to be like, "These are the VR headsets."
No, you should just release like a picture with like like the lines of like.
That's hilarious.
They're like the VR lines. Yeah, that's what you need.
I don't know. They're going to have to work bloody hard to get me back into the Apple ecosystem. I'll tell you that, because I had to work myself out of that, and once you're out. It's not easy to go backwards, because it is a very closed wall garden. If they came out with an open device, God,
never.
My jaw would drop.
I'll bet you a burger on that.
Yeah, that's definitely.
That sounds good. Well, that's now that all that's out of our system, we can slumber for another 6 months, hopefully, on no more Apple podcasts. We can come back from Apple Reality to real reality. Well, virtual real reality.
FReality.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and check in with Jose on releases then.
All right.
I think it's a good time for that.
Okay. So I highlighted 3 games that everybody, there's so many releases that I wanted to kind of focus on. I'm trying to select games that stand out to me personally that I would like to talk about. First one up that I have on the list is Kill It With Fire VR, which is the ultimate ambition of killing it with fire. It is a pest control, insect control game or a simulator. It scratches the same itch as like Power Wash Simulator does for me, which is seeing something that should not belong and making the place feel zen-like, which is what I feel when I see cockroaches or bugs. I want to burn it all down because they shouldn't exist in my environment. So that's a PC VR, Quest 2, and PSVR 2 game. Releases on April 13th. $14.99 US, about 12 pounds. Yeah, just looks a freaking
I really like
ragdoll physics-based game. Yeah.
It's such a shame that's not that's Thursday the 13th instead of Friday the 13th. That's all
That'll
I'm
be
saying. It's
amazing.
like it
Oh, what a
would
missed
have worked out
opportunity
really
there.
well. We'll have to wait a whole year
become the
though.
menace.
Mad.
And second one I have is Breachers VR. I am a really big fan of Insurgents. The PC game that this is definitely inspiring.
Of Insurgency.
Was it Insurgency? Which was it Rainbow Six Insurgency? Or am I
Oh no! Sorry, we're talking about different games. Insurgency is a hardcore FPS game.
That's the
but
FPS.
it's
What's
not-
the? It's not. I'm forgetting the name of it. The physics based destruction. It's not Insurgency.
Oh, unless you're talking way back. Are we talking
Yes.
90s here?
We're talking way back. Yeah.
Red Faction.
Red Faction. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I don't know
where
where
you
I
could
got
take a rocket
Insurgency.
launcher and drill your
and
way
just
through
destroy
a
everything
map.
around you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Cool.
Breachers VR gives me that the feeling. I'm hoping the physics get more. It's pretty much a cops versus robbers in a physics based stadium, right? It's fairly well known, has a huge following. It's releasing on the Quest 2 and PC VR, I believe. Also an April 13th game.
Yep.
That's coming up for $30 US, about 25 pounds. Really excited for that one. And last one, which I'm super excited about because I played the original non-VR version, is Medieval VR. It is a roguelike shooter where it's all about getting weapons. It's a Metrovania or guns-based Vania style gameplay. It scales up based on your gameplay performance and on the weapons that you're using. It's weapons collectible. They rebuilt the game from the ground up into VR, which got me the most excited about this because I loved the original game. I played it actually a lot, quite still on the deck. So being able to see this coming out for VR on the Quest 2 and PC VR, April 20th. Definitely check that out. $19.99 US. That's about 17 pounds. And that's it. That's all I have. Oh, The Last Clockwinder. I know I've been talking about this. Rowdy spoke about it a lot. It has honestly stealthily become one of my favorite games. It's already out. Just get it. Just look it up. Last Clockwinder. That's my special honorable mention for PC VR.
That game's brilliant.
Yes.
That's
truly is.
brilliant.
It truly
And
is.
you can, if I'm not mistaken, you can play that on PSVR 2 as
I
well.
think
It is there.
I'm the last one who
nice.
hasn't played it yet. I think
You have
that's
it.
where
Oh
I'm gonna
my
pick it up.
days.
I know. It's not that I don't want to. It's just like there's so much stuff, man.
It was my
Yes,
game of the
priorities,
year.
Adam. You understand?
Game of
That's
the
a priority
year.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I'll get over the
it was
PlayStation.
actually on sale. I should have told you. I should have told you guys in the chat, but it was on sale last week. That's actually how I picked it up. It was like almost 60% off
Wow.
on the Steam store. Yeah, it was. I got very
That's
excited.
only going to frustrate a few people. That's all right. That's all right. every time, every podcast, he tries to bring the pitchforks home, and that's one of the
There was a sale.
Yeah, there was a sale.
It was a sale.
It was a great sale. It was a great sale.
Saved so much
All
money.
of the savings.
Oh Lord. All right. Well, let's chat. Now is your chance. I'm going to recap the show times. If you have anything left to say to the crew, or reactions, you want to put a fork through Jose's eyeball or something, that's fine. Do that now.
Please do.
Right?
Let's
do that.
do it.
And have a happy Easter after that. So here we go. This podcast is live every other Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. The show starts 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. in the UK. We've got an audio version out on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Spotify. If you are watching this back, then we encourage you to drop a comment. Let us know what you liked or didn't like. And finally, let's see what chat's got in their suggestions.
I don't want to forget this because I promised them that I would bring up the question. We did get a super chat earlier from Norman. I don't know how simple of a answer this might be necessarily, and it kind of goes back to Rowdy's science talk last week with the AI. But it's basically have either of you considered what AI development such as OpenAI will have on our interactive experiences within VR when taking advantage of LLMs? And they said thanks, but. Again, thank you, Norman. We appreciate it. So I don't know if
An
that's
LLM is like a
long...
lemon M&M. Is that what
LLMs.
LLM?
LLMs. Stands for large language models.
Large
Language model. So GPT is a large language model. Google Palm is also a large language model. Llama is a large language model. So you have a lot of different of those
Why am I getting
elements.
hungry? I don't know. Can I have? Has anyone here ever eaten llama? Because I'm now want llama steak.
Let's try it.
No.
No.
But to answer the question, so I mean, OpenAI is a company, of course. So they have, I think, in January they received a $10 billion investment from Microsoft. So
Billion or million?
Billion, I believe.
Billion.
$10 billion investments. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's. I think Microsoft is probably a majority shareholder there. I mean, Microsoft is one of those companies that is not too invested in VR. So I don't see that specific company go into VR directly or fast, because Microsoft is very hopeful. I recently watched a talk from them on their Bing engine. So they're integrating ChatGPT basically in Bing, now allowing it to actually use it to do searches. So for example, to make it more accurate, it can now also search the web, which I think is super interesting. But of course, like AI is already being implemented. These large language models are being implemented in pretty much everywhere. The only problem often with this kind of stuff is that it requires a lot of training, a lot of time. And they're typically not the fastest. You can see that with ChatGPT as well, that when you get replies, like it's not like instant replies. So you can't really use it in that context yet, that you could, for example, start like generating dialogue all of a sudden. Although we're getting there. I think that's not that far away. I think we'll see that probably soon. But I think a lot of stuff is being done as well in reinforcement learning. Just you see that with like AIs right now. They're getting more and more intelligent. You see games becoming more intelligent from the way that you play, and like I think we're on the brisk of a really exciting kind of time for game development and the integration of AI there in general.
So cool.
We're gonna see, we're gonna see a lot more push in AI value in games in the games that traditionally pull the most data. That's what Rowdy meant by reinforcement learning. Like games that normally, let's say, it's all based on the communities, right? Like the games that actively push the developers from snooping and getting data off of them will not be able to optimize or leverage the power of AI because they don't have that data. But games, let's say, for example, like fighters or free-to-play games that are tracking player data, player statistics, are fine-tuning all of that information. They have essentially a crystal ball, which is what a large language model is. It's a lot of data that's being shifted through, and it's learning in real time. So whoever has the most data is going to win in optimizing their games. So that's the Fortnites, the Street Fighter type games that are nothing but data dumps. Those games are going to get crazy.
And
it's like chess.
And the reason why I brought up reinforcement learning was because GPT themselves use reinforcement learning, or ChatGPT used that, reinforcement learning with a human component in it. So a human evaluation does rank ordering, and then the human picks the best ranking. Maybe
really? I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
so I mean, for the initial training, that is. So for the initial,
they still need us.
Yeah, they kind of still need us.
So far.
Maybe I'll do one time an episode on reinforcement specifically, on reinforcement learning, because I think it's a very super.
Let's do it.
It's a very interesting topic. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had one question. Since last time, my brain's been spinning on AI stuff since Rowdy lit me up. Question is, why don't we don't say Skynet? Why don't we allow AI to freewheel? Like you talked last time about safety and measures there to kind of halt it, but in terms of what has been immediately recognized as like dangers or hazards, is it more about the mitigation of, say, a minority, you're not getting a loan anymore because we've automated our loan giving system? Or what is the harm that an AI that's freewheeling poses realistically in 2023 is my question to you, Rowdy, if you can put your brain on that.
I mean, I think there's different arguments to that. I think one of the big things is misinformation. Like I said as well, like these kind of models can create information that looks so good and so real that it's almost indistinguishable from what is actually true facts. So I think that's a big thing. Also, there is the concept of like, there is such a thing as bad data. you don't want your model to be trained on bad data. You can say like, oh, the more data, the better. But it's better to have a smaller data set that is very, very well documented, very accurate, very good, and input that in your model rather than having just like everything that is out there. I mean, maybe if you have everything that is out there, like, yeah. And another thing is indeed like you want a sort of you have a sort of like social responsibility as well. You don't want your model to become a neo-Nazi saying that they need to rule the world and do this and whatever. Like, and there is a lot of stuff like that on the internet. So you don't want to feed stuff in a model that doesn't reflect the social values of a company.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's very much like having kids.
And that's what makes reinforcement learning so interesting, because reinforcement learning is based on that concept of training by reward.
Good. I can sleep a little bit more soundly now. They still need us for now.
I want an AI model that's trained on nothing but 4chan.
Oh god!
I can build it for you if you want. I can build it.
Careful what you wish for, and we are gonna see who gets paid burgers sometime in the next few months. We look forward to that because I'm bloody hungry.
Oh, yeah.
It's lunchtime here. Let's go get some food, lads, and happy Easter weekend again. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you all next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.